All right, hold on. I'm making sure I'm recording this time. And all right, can everybody see?
Okay.
Got them up now.
Those are last month's minutes.
All right, can I have a motion to approve? Everyone read them over, and can I have a motion to approve?
Motion, aye.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Done.
Okay, and get rid of those.
Protest and appeals hearings executive committee.
Hold on. Let's get. There's today's stuff.
Well, anything other than the secretary, the treasurer's report. Greg, you got any info?
Well, I've got. You can see that right there. Whoop.
Oh.
Almost saw it right there. There you go. That's what's in the. That's what's in the bank right now, and that's.
What have we got? We've got about 20,000 coming out of that, though, between everything or more. Yes?
Yeah, I wrote it down. We've got roughly between admin fees and payouts. We got roughly and admin fees, payouts, and the grant. Roughly 37,000 coming out.
Okay, the 60 really isn't part of our budget. We may be exceeding the budget because some of that money has been left from other years, correct?
Yes.
What did you start with, 20?
Why does this thing keep doing that?
I don't know.
There.
I want to see the numbers.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Basically, there's 71,000 in there.
Yeah, but we started with a certain amount.
I think we started with 29.
Okay. So you got, you really have budget from what we took in and what we got out. We're at 71.39. We're still at 41. You say you got 36 coming out of there.
It's close.
Yeah, so we should, and we haven't done anything with the. We've been counting that excess. We haven't ever dumped that into the 100,000, which at some point, we'll see how we do this year, but at some point we could.
I think we should be okay.
Yeah. Well, with cash flow, we're fine.
Yes.
But, we're getting closer, and that we're not supposed to have a real surplus. So we'll take a look at it at the end if there's anything in there that seems out of sort.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we always pay forward the AGM, FY AGM stuff, so I'll be needing to take out a couple grand for that.
Yeah, but that's the next year's budget, actually. We already hit that.
Yeah, I know, but it's coming out of this money that's there.
Yeah, no problem.
Just so you know.
Yeah. It'll hit the cash flow, but it won't hit the thing. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so that's the money. So the money's good as far as it goes. We're all paid. We've paid the college. We paid everything for the college showcase.
All paid.
Yeah, we've paid everything I know to Renee, our attempt to do something there. Besides, I don't know where else we've been fairly.
I haven't written another check, if that's what you mean.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we've done all we could there to give her, to give her what we could. If she comes back and wants to bill us something, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'd be bad guys to get it wrong-sided because we still could throw her some business. So one quick one aside. Who's that?
Yeah, those are my.
Is that you, buddy?
Those are my dogs. Yeah.
Good. I'll get mine. They'll hear mine. They'll hear it. They'll start. We won't be able to do anything. All right. Let's keep moving. We've got nothing. Let's just, as far as the seniors and juniors, we've got the tournaments going on, and maybe by the next thing, some will settle out. Mike.
Yeah.
We still got some USA teams in both tournaments. Am I correct? Does anybody really know?
In Presidents and State?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
How about Commissioner's Cup? Is that done?
Yeah, commissioners is done.
Did anybody recap that? Have we got that somewhere we can recap it?
Yeah, we can do that. I can do it right now.
Can you get it that easily, huh?
Yeah.
I know it's kind of dark in there.
Right. But that would be the only thing to report out that I can think of. We'll go into some of the results here, and that leads to some other things. But how about the grant? Let's get back to the grant right now. How are we doing? Are you getting people to apply?
We have 11 applications so far.
Why do you think that is, guys? I mean, what is it that we're doing? More money, more easier to get? Is it we're not getting the word out? We're getting the word out.
I think it's, I think it's definitely that we got to, again, get to the managers and coaches of these guys.
Well, don't we send something? Don't we have an email to them that we sent?
I've sent it out a few times. Yeah.
So they're getting an email, Mike. I know we could get to them personally, but I mean, every one of them's getting an email. You would think the older age groups would respond. It's getting to the end of it. I know Augie and, well, Coco, are you still on?
I'm still here. I'm
thinking George and Augie, I don't know if they got any kids that are eligible, but there's a good chunk of money in there for the kid that gets it.
I have a meeting with Augie and George tomorrow. So I'll mention to them. I think Augie has some kids eligible for it.
Yeah, because they're not. It's more of a. We really turn into a service. In other words, how many years in USA and service award, which gets kids that participate and help and stuff like that. It gets them a. Kathy McNally. Do you know who she is, Coco?
No.
She's the girl that the kid.
Yes. I know her.
He did the salute to the flag. He did the.
Yep.
Well, then there's a kid that's a good. He's a guy that should know about it and get going on. I think he's a junior. But,
I think he's a junior. Yeah.
But there's a kind of kid that you tell him get involved. Get some volunteer hours in, and apply to that thing because he's looking for.
Jerry, can you send us? Each one of us that email that you sent out, and then I will make sure that I will get directly with all the seniors in my club.
Sure.
And follow up, directly with each one of them.
Sure. And I was just going to say, I had 3 applicants before today, and we got, 8 more. Everyone always waits till the last week.
Yeah,
so I suspect we'll get some this week as well,
Yeah,
but
look, if people don't apply, there's nothing we can do about it, but we're trying to make it even more profitable to do it.
Yeah. Well,
$500, we used to get 50 kids, Yeah. I guess people, if the money isn't as important, we're getting just wealthier people that don't need the help.
There you go.
I don't know if that's good or bad. It's not good, probably.
Let me know what their names are.
All right. So anyway, we've got a while to get that, and then when we get that done, where do you close off, the 15th, Sherry?
yes.
All right. So if you got to extend it a week, we want to turn it fast, though, pretty much, huh? Greg, Sherry.
Yeah. Well, depends. If we only got 15 or 20, it's not that hard.
Just bounce it to us, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right. That's all I got. Anybody got anything else for the meeting part of this? New business? Do you want to go into these AGM, all these, like the open board positions? We might as well cover that. What's open this year? All the 1-year guys are open, essentially, correct, Sharon? All the at-large.
At-large positions, yes.
Every year.
Yes.
All right, so all the at-large people, that's in, who is that now?
Joe and
Well, Joe and Jessica for sure, right?
Right.
Merritt. Right?
Correct.
Who else? Is there only 3 at-large?
I think so.
Okay. And then how about the officer positions? Who's?
Vice President Junior Boys, Vice President Girls, and the Treasurer.
Mark, you're the treasurer.
I'm the secretary.
Oh,
Kai's the treasurer.
who is the treasurer?
Kai.
Hi.
Oh, Guy. Okay. I'm the president. I don't know who the treasurer is. I guess that's about the organization, right? All right. So you guys got to, get with the program here. We're all in on this. We're all in up to our waist. If you just stay with me one more year, we'll figure out a way to get everybody safe somewhere. But if you guys would stay, it'd be good. We're doing okay, I think. I mean, this has been collegial. We've been getting, we get everything done. We've got great depth on the board. I mean, we've got everything you could ever want as far as experience and experience in the game. Guys that have played, guys that have coached, guys that have been, in running clubs. I mean, it's incredible. So you'd hate to lose that. I know that Kai, you've got some challenges. I know, but if we can just keep everybody in, as far as I'm concerned, and if we got other people that are interested, then let them come forward. We've had some great people ask about it, so we'll keep it going. But I'd ask all you guys to re-up, please. I guess, when do you have to know that, Sherry? When do you have to actually know that? Just before the meeting, right? You can do it right at the meeting.
Right, exactly. Because you can nominate from the floor even.
Yeah. Well, don't we know that?
We're in the dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the one where Mike was going to be president. Told me 2 minutes before the thing that he wasn't going to do it, that I was going to do it. Said, okay, wonderful.
Best thing that ever happened to the league, Paul. The best thing that ever happened.
Well, Mike, the thing I got to say about you is you got a tremendous sense of humor.
Well, I spoke to your wives, all of you guys, and you're hooked up until 2030.
Yeah.
Woo!
Hey,
I'll
take living.
My wife just gave me the green light I can coach and be the president of FC Tampa to 2030.
Woo!
Yeah, they'll be rolling me in on something, drooling on myself at that point.
Come and visit me in the grave.
Yeah.
Well, listen, but that's okay. So that's the open board positions. Oh, I see at large, vice president. Sherry, if I just stopped to read this, I wouldn't have to ask, right? Yeah. I didn't get to it yet.
That's okay.
The AGM rule change proposals I saw, they're due. They're really due we have until after the next meeting. Is that correct, Sherry, technically?
No.
No, we have to.
After this meeting in April?
You have about a week or so after this meeting.
Yeah, we have to post them, I think, 20 days prior to the AGM.
All right. The reason I'm asking, I saw something here, and these are really clerical things that or some things that I asked Greg during the year just to put together. But to everybody, don't we have a whole issue that we said we were going to straighten out with who gets to play and how we present them? This NPL, we had kids that we couldn't find during the year. I mean, wasn't there have you read those rules? Has anybody actually gone through them? There's like 3 pages. You got to really read through them to get the gist of what we're trying to do. It seems to me like we can potentially simplify them. I mean, all we're really trying to prevent is kids from D1 teams playing down to D2 to get some unfair advantage. And we really haven't seen much of that lately. Other than that, we really can't, it seems we can't be looking at all these other leagues and see if kids play. We have no way. I think we go back to and Greg and Sherry maybe, and everybody should read those rules and see if we can simplify it to they're on the roster or their club pass. There's 3 club passes. That's it,
Yeah, the only section, Paul, the only section there is, I'll tell you which one it is. It is 204.5C. Okay, And that refers to GISA, TARSA, and rec players being allowed to club pass. And what that opens up a can of worms when you start looking at MPL and CDL and all these other players then, because half of these players aren't in GOT soccer, and they can't get on the game card unless they are. And then we don't know which club they play for. So I think we got to change.
But if a kid gets rostered for whatever reason, Greg, that's what I'm saying. Rostered.
But he can't play because he's not on the game card.
Why isn't he on a game card if he's rostered?
If he's rostered to GISA or TARSA, they're not in GOT soccer.
Will they club pass him?
If he wants to be club passed, he's got to be in GOT soccer. He's the only way.
The GISA kids aren't in GOT soccer. They're not FYSA members.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen. I haven't seen any of that come through. Nobody's. We've got that in there, and we've had one rec player in the past year and a half that wanted to play as a club pass player.
But that's, when we get down to, I know Sherry has got some numbers here, and I hope you guys were able to get a look at them. When we look at a lot of this stuff, and Greg and I talked this week, we don't have a problem with that. It seems like to add things like, that we're trying to keep that. We really don't have a. If we got one player out of 5,000 kids that are in a, we just want to be sure they're insured. But we don't have a real large problem with GISA kids and stuff, overwhelming rosters on teams. It just doesn't happen because it's just not likely they're gonna do that. The only time these rules were really made up in a time period, and this is my thinking, when there was one league only, and it was vital to get moved up or down, and people would sandbag players to try and do that if they were close to being relegated out of the league, whatever. And that's really not the case anymore. We have all of these leagues, and it seems like the problem we have with people sandbagging to put better kids on teams is really rare. Not never, but it's really rare. The second thing is there is right at the beginning of the game is when you've got to a coach has got to say to the referee, I am playing under protest because I don't think this kid is properly rostered. If they don't do that, we really don't have much to go on anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So
look at our bylaws. You've got to put a protest in there right away and tell the ref, I'm playing under protest.
You just opened up three issues, though, in what you just said. One of them is that the player is actually who he is. The second one is he on the club, and can he get on the game card? And the third one is no write-ins.
Well, yes, but we already know that. In other words, we aren't allowing write-ins. He's got to be on the game card. We know that. The other one is every kid that plays, Greg, every child that goes down to the field, you can ask the same question, is that him? You can't possibly.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
If we had facial recognition technology or something like that, you might be able to do it. But
I'm just concerned about.
We've got to believe that those cards are at least in part right. Unless you got an idea that something is radically wrong.
Understood.
The kid has got a full beard and he's on an under 12 team. He drove to the game, he's on an under 30. He just scored 7 goals and no one could touch him. No one knows who he is. Other than that,
no argument. No argument there. Not arguing that point. I'm just arguing the point that I am not sure whether any of those people from those leagues are in GOT soccer.
But then they couldn't be rostered. They got to be on a roster. I mean, if we just keep it clean and say they got to be rostered on the card, no write-ins, a lot of this other stuff goes away. I mean, we just eliminate. I mean, read through that section. It's 3 pages of if he's on this team, he's going.
501 is for relegation and promotion. That 501 section that you had me read, I went through it. It is 3 pages. It's all about promotion and relegation in completed divisions.
Yes, that's that's an entirely different issue.
Yeah, the club has stuff.
This year we had a number of issues about eligible players, and
Yeah.
It seemed like we were able to handle the few we had fairly equitably. We did catch one kid at one point last year, maybe, who had two different names, was signed up twice. But I mean, that is so rare. If we keep the roster thing strong, roster, game card, no write-ins, 3 club players, no guest players, we should have 98% or 99% of our problems solved. Our problem is more that the refs don't, enforce it before the match. But as far as our bylaws, if you take a look and see if there's anything we can clean up to make it very certain, very clear to people. These are the 3 things you got to have, and that's it.
Yeah, that section isn't as muddled as the promotion relegation.
And the promotion relegation, guys, that has become another one. I mean, we've got to read through there because we're in a different era than we were when these bylaws were originally conceived. We had one league, and it was easy to figure where you were going up or down. The teams didn't change much. We're in an environment now where the team continuity is somewhat marginal. Not totally, but somewhat marginal. The teams, especially 14s and up, where this thing really seems to matter, you get massive changes. Teams are dropping out. Kids are switching teams. They're not the same team. And also, we've got other leagues that have teams that may wish to come back, and we've got to deal with that. Either we've got to not allow it or allow it in order to get the best play possible. And that's really what we're talking about some of these clubs coming in the first division. You hear scuttlebutt, and I don't think any of it's true. I don't believe a bit of it, that there might be some, shift into the USA League out of one of the other leagues. And if that happens, we're going to have to either allow it and welcome it and say, all right, we got guys back, better play, better teams, more competition, or eliminate it, one way or the other. That relegation promotion thing we have does not cover that, doesn't deal with it. And Greg had a great suggestion. If we do have, and this is for teams wanting to come back in the first division, we had a Temple Terrace team that was very good 3 or 4 years ago, Mike, you remember?
Yeah, McElwain's.
And they were very good. McElwain's team was known to be good. They were playing in that in the other, what was the league? The one that I don't think plays anymore.
It was the Florida Premier League then.
Yeah, so they were unhappy with that. They were very good. They were coming back, and by our standards, they had to go to the 3rd division. And they were basically saying, don't do that to us, because it really will ruin a year for us, and it'll ruin all the games that these kids have, because it won't be competitive. It won't be good for us or the teams we're playing. And we worked around. It took a while, but we worked around it, got them in, and sure enough, I think they finished in the league 1st or 2nd. They had a couple losses, but they were as good as they advertised. Of course, we knew the people, and that made it easier. But Greg suggested, and it's a little tough, but if these guys, if we have people from other leagues that want to come back in the first division, that they've got to play head-to-head somewhere with some of the teams coming up out of the second division. That seems a simpler thing to do, and I think if you do that, we've got to make it that the fields used are the challengers' fields. So we, in other words, you guys set it up. We'll get the referees, but you got to play in. What do you guys think of that? Because that's nowhere in our rules.
I think we're going to have to look at it, because the one thing is that we want to improve the quality, right? And we're going to have to. We're not saying that all the teams that come from outside are quality, but we're going to have to look at it at, I think, age group by age group. Really.
Yes, but Mike, they will assert that they are.
Well, then they have to. Then our bottom 4 teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. See, Greg's thing is then have them play head to head with with what the two emerging teams or three teams, whoever is not in that division coming up. But you got to do that pretty fast in the seniors. You don't have a many weeks to work that out, although we can work around it a little bit.
Well, I think the seniors kind of, because of the lesser number of teams, I don't think you have that big a problem.
No, but that's where you're likely to see more teams coming back, don't you think?
Yeah, but I think that you could look at them as to where they were playing, and then if need be, just have a one-off game.
Yes, yeah. But that's what Greg's saying. It's got to be but you got to have it. You got to have it. In other words, you can't just say, because coming from any league, they might not be all that for the first division. If they play in and they beat somebody 5-1, that's well, and you say, all right, I got you. But we got to allow for it. And I think for our members, some of them, that's going to seem a bit unfair.
Well, I think it would be unfair too. You got two teams that are getting promoted. They work all season for it. They have a full book of games they've played. They have a bad game against some team that we know nothing about, and all of a sudden they're back in second division.
Yes, I agree. I'm saying that's the danger, Mark.
I think presently the bylaws state that they play against the second team that's being promoted, not the first one.
Well, Mark's point's still
Yes.
taking that the guy plays all the season. They win, X amount of games in our league. They're moving up. They have one bad match, and now they're stuck. They're not relegated, and that's the danger of what we're talking about here.
And you guys have more history.
One game exposes them to a one and out situation, and like I said, I think people are going to feel that's unfair.
And how many teams in the history of this have come on in from an outside league, or we're first division? How many have actually ever done anything in first division?
Well, that the only one I can think of, and one of the problems I have is I don't, at the time we're there, and we had one division last year that I was doing it. We had 10 people or 12 people swearing up and down on their mother's graves that their team was unbelievable and they would slaughter everybody in the other division. Now we had to make some choices, and the people that didn't get in were serious. I mean, East Pasco was one. Some other, and I mean, they were like, and I looked it up halfway through the season. I kept jotted it down. I saw they were halfway. They were in the middle of the table in the second division. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but obviously they weren't murdering people. And the two teams that went up, the two teams that we put in there that they were arguing weren't good, one ended up in third place. I don't know where the other one was doing okay. So that, but those are judgments you make that you really rather not make. You'd rather do it on the field, Mark. And that's where, if you only had, either you make them on the field or you make them in the you make them at the meeting, which is worse, right?
Yeah. Paul, I think we should, as a league, I think we should allow the league to respect us and have them join the third division and work their way up. That's it.
But
That's what I think.
I'll give you the counter argument to that. If you do that, Coco, they just don't come in. You don't get it.
They can stay in that sucky CDL, whatever.
Well, it might not be the CDL. It might be the FPL or whatever. But my point is, you want for our first division, we want as much as we can, as much as possible, the best play. Loyalty is good. I mean, as teams that stay and our regular teams that stay with us deserve our loyalty. But if you're not able to play, if you're not one of the best 8 teams or 10 to whatever we decide, you really can't be up there,
Yeah, but if we're going to argue about one team, it's not worth it making any changes.
Well, we wouldn't have to make a change. We just have to allow for some other methodology. Now, in our bylaws, we, the executive board, have the right to do that. That's why I want to talk about it now, so we all can start thinking about it. If in fact we get if it's one team, Coco, it's not too much worry. My concern is there are a lot of teams in other leagues that might migrate to ours. I don't think that's really going to happen, but that's what the scuttlebutt is.
Well, I believe the CDO their time is coming, and they just have to join us, the best league, USA League.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to see that 100%. Don't forget the guys that are doing that. It's a for-profit league, so they're going to fight. They're going to business there, and they're making money on that business, and they're not going to go away. We're not making any money here, so we're not fighting tooth and nail because it's our income. You're talking about someone's income, so they're not going to let any of the clubs migrate out of there without some pain, and without some serious lobbying, and without some serious. Okay, we'll change things. I think that's really what you're going to see.
I think the sport and the level of quality of players that we have and the teams we have in this league is going to speak for itself as we go forward, like we've been doing. And I think it would just be a matter of time, maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe I'm wrong. But.
No, you could be right. It's just for all of us to think about, because when we get to the end, we get to next month and we start looking through that relegation promotion thing, it's not as clean as it once was. We have all these rules. I mean, it's 2 pages of rules, and we don't have the same environment anymore that those rules fit, where you can actually say in our bylaws we have this, because we don't have we don't have the type of continuity among teams that we had 10 years ago. Teams stayed together and kind of, they changed a couple guys. Some left or some didn't, but it's,
I tell you though, it's a big deal getting promoted, and it's part of what we've set up is like the right to the throne. And I would just like to see a team or two all season and then be told, yeah, too bad about that. Go back to Division II.
How about the alternative? And again, I'm not arguing for this.
Right. No, just discussing.
How about the alternative that you expand that division in that year for that reason?
But then what's the use of getting promoted?
Well, you're still in the first division, but now you got 10 teams instead of 8 because we allowed 2 in that weren't in the order of being promoted. Now, this hasn't happened, Mark. But we may be facing this, and now's the time to talk about it.
Well, it was happening last year, but at the meeting, half the people that wanted to be in Division I because they were so great weren't even there. So there was no real discussion to be had, and we placed them in Division II, and then they got upset.
But they were in we had some eye on them from the league. We're talking about teams coming from the MPL or whatever, that don't like the structure anymore. They don't feel they're getting the games, or they don't feel they're getting, or it's a rat race for whatever reason, and would like the continuity of playing in our league because they're going to get 15 games. So all of a sudden, if there's a movement toward that, and I don't say there's going to be, but if there ever is a movement towards that, because there's a lot of people out there. We need to be at least aware that may be a possibility, and have talked about it like we're doing now as far as what we're going to do, because it may be more than one team. It may be a group of age groups and it may be 12 different teams.
I could see holding out for 1 extra spot, so it's not 8 anymore, it's 9, and that's something that the board looks at. There's 4 people who want the spot. And then we can make a decision on you get it or you go play for it. Because, asking someone to go play for it from outside the league, that's to me seems fair.
Well, I mean, no matter what, you'd like to have some sort of on the field way to ameliorate that. However, when we look at it, the other thing we're talking about here is, because we want the first division to be as strong as possible. The kids coming back in really had no. We're kind of not getting, in this situation, we could kind of not get the best players we could possibly be playing against, which is good for everybody in the league, because some club, there was some financial or business decision that was made that had nothing to do with the kids, the coaches, or anything else. And that's what we're saying. If that should reverse itself, which it could, we've got to have a way to adapt to that rather than stick them all in the 3rd division, I think. Maybe not. But that's something maybe we need to put something in and vote on it, right?
Well, I think maybe the idea is to have an alternate spot available that the board can decide, or the VP of whatever that group is, that I want that team in, but not make it so it's 10 or 11 or 12. And then, and definitely the following year, instead of 2 teams going down, you would have 3 teams go down.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're keeping the integrity of the first division.
And or instead of playing the teams coming up, have them play in against the teams going down.
Yeah, but then they pound
All
the
all have to
two.
be involved, though. All those, the going down and the coming up teams, right?
Well, the going down teams are going down anyway. I mean, it's,
Right.
Right.
what Greg's saying is there's no loss to those teams if they get pounded. They're going down anyway, and it does give you an idea of the strength of the team, I guess. But that's something we don't have to.
Usually our divisions, you have the first place, second place, third place is kind of far behind second place, and then we have a block, and then we have usually 2 or 3 teams that just get pounded, and lack of players, injuries, what have you, depending on what age group it is.
Yeah,
So
I mean, every age group really has a different pattern anyway. So
Yeah.
this might not be a problem in some of them, but somewhere along the line, philosophically, Mark, before we start the next season, we as a board need to come up with a general idea how we feel about it, because it's more likely to happen now than other times, or in the future.
If you put 10 teams in, now all of a sudden you're interfering with those teams' tournament schedule, because now you've got 2 or 3 more games. And we have a tough time fitting those games in around March anyway.
Well, that's what I mean, Greg. In some of these things, he's suggesting we cut the league back. I don't agree with him, but I mean, that's another way of dealing with this. Although, again, I'll go back to. But we don't have to decide tonight. But this is a question we're going to have to grapple with, and we need to think about in the next month as to how we want. Then we can come up with something and vote on it, or we can agree that hey, this is what we'll do when we come to this.
Right.
Right.
I don't want to be doing it at the meeting.
No, I agree.
What if we get the VPs that are in charge of the boys and girls to come up with something?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm happy with anybody coming up with it, Greg. I mean, if someone's got a good idea, they don't have to be the VP. Just think that could happen and see how you're going to deal with it. That you have a good team, a team that's congruent, that plays together, and everything else. Asking you to come in the league at 16, and they played in the EPL or something else, and they've had it, but they'd like to stay together and they want to play in USA. And the question is, what do? We don't have a methodology to get them into the proper division. Maybe. It's unlikely they're going to be a D3 team, and that would just impose pain on everybody. So basically, you're saying you will never accept another team and a team from outside if you're going to only offer them D3. That's that's what you're saying. And that's a non-growth, non-competitive type of way of reasoning. But if that's what a majority of us want to do, I'm fine with that too.
Well, I agree.
It's not gonna change our lives.
It hasn't been a huge problem. I mean, there's teams that always wanted.
No, it hasn't. And it's only now that someone happened to mention to me that there's a possibility of something going on. And I don't really
different landscape now.
I don't, for one, believe that there'll be any major structural changes at all in what goes on.
Well, but I will tell you that the feeling of those teams participating in CDL, that there is a strong feeling that the league is not a league of convenience because they can't get games in. I mean, the Celtic under 17 boys out of the 12 games played 4 games by the time State Cup came around.
Yeah, and if you look at the league, Mike, if you actually tune into the CDL, it seems like, and I might be wrong, but I don't think so. If you miss the mass games, in other words, they schedule stuff on the weekends, you can't make it, right? It's a lovely thing. Hardly we can't do that. You'd like to have more of those centralized things where everybody comes together. And there is that park in Hillsborough that may open up, and we maybe have a chance to do it a couple times a year at some reasonably central location. But aside from that, then if you read their rules, then you have to contact the other coach and set up a game. Well, shit, that's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And that's why they're not getting the games in, I think, Mike, is that they're not making the mass weekend thing, and then you're done.
Well, let me tell you the secret behind that they're doing. They only need 3 games.
Oh, is that what it is? It's 3. Okay.
They need 3 games in order to qualify for State Cup or President's Cup. So therefore, the motivation for many of the teams in that league.
Yes, agreed. But Mike, at some point, only getting 5 games in, and it has to be. Let's go back to, if you're playing the game, if you're playing this sport to play, to actually participate and play a match, it seems like 5 matches in an entire season is really not doing it for you. If you really want to play, if you're playing because you think you're going to go to college on a scholarship or whatever, the 5 games is even worse, because now those guys that are playing 5 are playing 4 tournaments, right? Or 6 tournaments, and they're in every showcase there is, assuming that they're going to play at North Carolina or somewhere. Now we know that's not going to happen, but the clubs that are doing that have to give that idea up. So I see your idea. If they're playing 3, they're happy, right? So
many. I don't say all of them, but many of the teams just are happy to qualify for the State Cup.
Right. So there's no overriding reason to play soccer.
No, well, not if you go into tournaments and stuff. If you go into tournaments and all that, then you only need the 3 games in a FYSA affiliated league to play State Cup or President's Cup.
So that overall, the club's got to make the decision to let those kids, but because you're saying that they're not happy. It doesn't matter if a team's not happy. Now, the Celtics can make a move because they're able to, but the big clubs in there can't make a move without a major decision.
Correct.
And I could never see them making a decision. Personally, I don't see they have a bit of incentive to change the 3 games and out program they got.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has the answer for that. But.
No, I know. But anyway, so let's move on. But that's something, if it happens, let's just think about how we would integrate teams in there if we had more than just 1 or 2. 1 or 2 we can deal with. Let's go through the one other thing is this affiliation, Greg. If you read our bylaws, if you read 06, we changed a couple of years ago. We when you look at affiliation for USA, in 06, I think it's 6B, the second one in 6 rules in our bylaws, states that the executive board sets the rules, the procedures, the fees, everything. So that we had some questions as to people coming in, people not coming in. But let's just take a look at that, just so everyone understands. We changed that on purpose.
Okay, where is it?
It's right in the beginning. It's 06. It's right at the very beginning of the Bible.
Right there, Greg.
Yeah, I clicked the wrong one.
Yeah, and just go down. Next, keep moving. Okay, it's in 6,
Right there.
membership. And it says here, the executive committee will establish a procedures, rule, and fees required for USA affiliation to be ratified at any regular monthly meeting of the board of directors. So that in our hands is in 100%, whether we ratify or we bring somebody in the league or not. It used to be that by our bylaws, if you applied, you got in, you had to get in. And we had no ability to pick and choose. And I was always, tongue in cheek, saying, when the gay Nazi soccer club comes to us and says they want in the league, that's going to be a difficult day. because it won't look that good. Not that it really matters. But there are parts that are so odious to us that we had no control over that. And I think 4 years ago the board, or 3 years ago the board changed that. So for all of us in this upcoming year, as far as affiliations, know that we have 100% in our hands, among us, the ability to take in clubs and not take in clubs for any reason, for cause. So if a majority of us say we don't want them in, we don't want them in because we don't like where they are, we don't, whatever it happens to be, you don't have to have a reason or give anybody a reason. It is in our bylaws that we control that part of it, which is what it should be. I mean, we're not looking not to have clubs play, but there may be a reason at some point why we didn't. We were hamstrung the other way by our own bylaws as to acceptance or rejection. You had to have some, they had to have insufficient referees or something else. The second thing is we have had some difficulty in when we come to this affiliation this year, we've had some members that we've had some issues at the fields. And it's something when we bring an affiliate in now, starting in June, there may be some restriction on the amount of home games they get, or if they get home games or not. I know Minnesota was one we've talked about. We didn't do anything. We haven't done anything. And we've got a couple clubs that haven't paid all their dues up. And we've had some difficulty at East Pasco and Brooksville with, staying in the league and having teams. And so Minnesota's a particular issue, and they're wonderful people down there. But we're really going to have to get a hold of that referee that is the assigner down there and make sure that we've gotten. I know we didn't, Mark, you weren't able to get to any.
Right. That assigner's Barry. He's with
apparently there were issues with the adult league playing like next to them, and they were drinking and cursing or whatever. The fields were not in good shape, and not the goals were not, the nets were ripped. They weren't, anchored properly. Whatever it was, the people that went there were still unhappy with the situation. And
that's been like that since I can remember.
I know, but we got to have two things. One is we've got to be fair, and if it's an impression, sometimes I come back from a game and I say, "Oh, this place is terrible," but it's once, and I just didn't get a good experience, so it's an impression we get, but it's not necessarily every game. Maybe they've had 40 games and they've had 2 games they've had problems. That's not a reason to pull the home games away. If in fact it's systematic, then we can't have our members go into a place where they're not getting what we promised them. Which was a safe field and a safe environment to play soccer, for kids to play soccer especially. And that's the only one we've got to make some decisions there. I think East Pasco and the other ones as a board, we're going to have to make some decisions. They're going to start affiliations in June, so right away you're going to have to say something to them to be fair regarding the senior season. All these clubs. And if there's any other ones, we got to get them out in front. I don't think there are any that we know of. But we got to be as fair as we can be. And I think Barry was down there. Not having gone down there myself and actually seen anything, it's difficult to take one person or two persons' opinions of it.
Well, I've been there a million times, and I can tell you, it is what it is.
Do you find every time you go down there, Mark, that it was not an environment that was conducive for youth soccer?
I would say that every time I've been there, there's always been something that just leaves you walking away like, I just can't believe that. And I've never, I've gone to a lot of places, and every once in a while, like you said, you go, oh, I can't believe that happened, or they let this happen. But I got to say that, It's a lower income area, and they have a lot of issues. And with those issues comes, bad fields, and they've got to fill the fields. And
it's a county field. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the people's income level that are playing. It's a county facility, or it's a public facility, is it not?
Yeah, it's a public facility, but you got to remember they pay $150, and that includes your uniform, both of them, to go play soccer. And it's just, they have to keep those fields going, and to keep them filled, they also have the men's league there, and the men's league brings the entire like food trucks and beer trucks and everything is there. And I will say that 85% of the time that I've played there, and the other park that they have 2 parks, right? I would say about 75% of the time I didn't see the beer and the beer and the food trucks and the men's league. But then you got people just going off and going crazy and swearing, and to the point where, like, as an adult, you're almost embarrassed.
Well, that's where Barry, I think we because the 2 guys we know well that run the thing are really great people, and they're doing they're doing everything they can. Now, it gets to a point where we're trying is not enough. We got to have some success, and I don't know. Again, but lower income. I mean, look, we've got Schimberg isn't exactly a high income place. I mean, not to say anything bad about it, but that's where we come from, or I come from. And
I guess what I'm saying, lower income club in that
it is a low income club, but I mean, there's nothing. If anything, they're tougher on everybody, their own people, than anybody. Not to say there aren't problems, but I mean, they don't have those type of problems, or the fields aren't ready, and it's an environment that is feels dangerous.
Well, I got to tell you though that
Plant City and Barton, some of those places I think are places that are not high income places, yet the comportment is very good. So that's not.
I see what I'm trying to say. Like I know
why
is this, that if there's a problem at our field, right? Braden River has a little bit more money and is able to pay for it and fix it and not have to wait.
If it's the fields,
right? Where when you're dealing with $150 for each kid, and you got your coaches and all these other fees, there's really not a lot. You can't even line the fields because you have no money.
Right. So, but Mark, at some point then to that's when you say, look, we want you to play, but we can't play at your fields anymore, which is a real burden to them because it's an ass buster driving around too.
It's really hard because a Minnesota away game is about 12 kids on a team. I mean, they're
I know, I got you.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult for them. Most of those kids are riding bicycles there.
No, I got you.
But then I can throw this at you that a Mothly was the same situation, yet, you know what? There was 14 kids, 15 kids at every game. I remember 1 or 2 instances, never with us. So there goes my argument about it.
Mothly, I've seen, I mean, when they played at Schimberg many times early. Now, these are older, going back 5 7 years. Those kids were the comportment was great. They were great players.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
That all comes from the coaches, from the guys that are running things. And I say that the people that run Minnesota are great people, and we want to aid them or help them in every way possible to succeed there. But we need to start thinking about what the experience is for everybody else too. And somehow that's thrust to us, the board. We've got to come up with.
I mean, I would hate to see Minnesota go away.
Well, they wouldn't go away. You would just restrict the home matches to for a while or something like that. You only give them 4 a year or so. In other words, you limit the damage that happens to you. You got to think about the people going there too, Mark. That's the problem.
The problem is, they have 2 fields. And the one, which is right next to the convention center, that's where not only is soccer is there, now it's at the Bradenton, whatever they're called, football team. And they're out there playing, and that's the real joy.
It's the death of a soccer field because it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's pretty brutal.
Well, we got to, before the reaffiliation, we've got to delve into this a little bit. That's the other thing. So, the club affiliation forms I see are due June 1st. We've got to come up with some way to help or some way to mitigate, our issues. And East Pasco and Brooksville. I mean, they just don't consistently. We have a team play 6 games, and they just Brooksville the same thing, and it just is. We don't need it. There's 2 teams in a league. We're bending over backwards to help guys play, and it seems like every other year, we embarrass ourselves because we're somebody's missing. Some of the teams that have gotten the league to play those matches are not now playing them because those teams aren't there anymore, and we can't keep doing that to our. All right, that's beat to death. Rule changes and proposals. We need to just look at that, but I don't know. You want to go through them? These are things you can vote on or not vote on, but you really need to discuss them. I don't like the mutual forfeit. I don't know, but just because it seems like our league, we are here we're here to make sure the games are played and both teams are willing to play, want to play, that their referees are there, fields are there, their schedule is there. But if 2 teams decide they just don't want to play, I don't see the sense in fining them. They're taking their own. They're doing it to each other. They're just limiting the amount of games their children play. They're not hurting anybody else in the league. I don't see why we want to add a burden of trying to get money from them too.
When 2 teams decide not to play, somebody else gets affected, which is the team above them or below them.
Well, but again, yes. I mean, in the up and down thing, yes. I'm talking about they're losing. I mean, for me, the most important thing is the games are sacrosanct because your team decided they're going to play this year. You paid the money, you collected money, and now you won 14 matches. And if one team wants to back out, I can see penalizing that team. When 2 teams decide somewhere in the season they don't want to play, my contention is, now again, I don't even vote in these things, but I'm saying I don't see forfeiting them.
I would like to see at least what's a forfeit? 3-0?
Yes.
Well, it can't be 3-0 if they're both. It's just no game.
Yeah, but you can't.
No, what I'm trying to say is goals against can sometimes be.
Well, but those teams are cipher. That game doesn't appear at all. It doesn't appear in their record. It doesn't appear. They just haven't played a game. They have no goals for, no goals against. It doesn't have any
in that game, but they forfeited. So if they had a loss,
well, no, both of them are forfeiting.
Right,
they're not losing. There's no.
No, but if they both forfeit and we give each team 3 goals against them, it may, there's that team next to them that's trying to come up and win, and they go ahead on goals against.
I mean, that doesn't. I mean, to me, that doesn't make any sense. In other words, that game is forfeited. It just doesn't appear. There's no goals. There's no points. There's no nothing. They just have 13 matches, and that's it.
You can't allow it. You can't allow it because if I'm winning the league and I'm playing and I need to have a game played and I can agree to have the game forfeited by someone else because a loss may change my position, then you can't do that. You can't. The game has to get paid. Somebody has to pay a penalty for the forfeit. Somebody has to pay the penalty.
Okay, so you want to keep it. You want a penalty.
Yeah, it's got to be. You can't have a mutual agreement that because we don't know what's behind the mutual agreement.
So does it depend if they're both in last place? Would that matter?
Well, anytime you start putting in caveats, then you've got.
That's what I'm pointing out.
No, there has to be a penalty.
It's either got to be in or out, so we'll have a forfeit. Now, don't we have that? You put this in here, Greg. Do we not have that? Do we not have the forfeit rule applied?
No.
Do we not have a $250 potential forfeit fine? In our bylaws.
That's why we brought this up. Sharon and I brought this up because in the past, what we've done is We've just allowed them to call it a no game, and they pay $100 each to cover the refs.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't even, right.
That's it. I mean, that's it. There's no other penalty for those teams.
Well, they only pay the refs if the refs are assigned.
That's the other thing, Greg. These guys are forfeiting 3 weeks out. I mean, it's a game scheduled for like April.
That's true. Good point.
Look, it comes down to the integrity of the league. The games have been scheduled. They got to get played.
So any game they don't get, Mike, do we go back to our forfeit? So we can go right back to our forfeit rule, Greg, instead of having an extra one for a mutual forfeit.
Right.
We just stick with our rule. You can get fined up to $250
Exactly.
for forfeiting a match. If both of you forfeit, then as an executive committee, we can make it 100 each.
Oh, we don't know. I think we double it. I think they each pay the forfeit fee.
I think if you don't do what Mike is saying, at the end of the season, you're going to have games being canceled. They're going to call up and go, look, man, we're in third, you're in fourth.
Right.
Well, this may be a good, but Mark, this may be a good time to bring us, and we discussed this somewhere during the week. We have these forfeits in place theoretically because the integrity of the league and the matter of games matters to us, right? Most important, number one thing. When you really look over the games we play, in other words, the rules we have in place right now, this year, okay, total unplayed games between 11 and 19 is about 1%. So the point is, do you have a problem with the rules we have now? Are we getting all of the enforcement we need? I would say if you're 1%, yes.
Yes.
All right. So that we admit, all of us would say we don't really have a problem with unplayed games, do we?
No.
Because we have
I have a comment on this.
Jim.
If I can.
Yeah.
With the situation we had this year with the weather and pushing games back as far as we did, we've got some situations where there's multiple games left that could determine a division winner, and there's quite a bit on the line with the senior teams with the division winner as far as applying for leagues next year. I know we give the money back to division winners and things like that. And if you have other teams that are laying down and forfeiting, and that changes who ends up being first place in a division, I don't know. There's a little bit of a concern there with something like that happening.
No doubt, but to me, it's the 80-20 rule. If I have under 3% or 3% or less of games not played in a league with 1,000 games, I would think it may be a specific instance you may have a problem, Joe, but overall, to me, you don't need to put any more enforcement into it when you're already getting tremendous response as far as percentage of games played.
I don't disagree, Paul. I don't disagree with your overall philosophy. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where your 1 to 3% number is coming from, but I don't disagree with that altogether.
That's our league
right.
This year, every game. Okay.
Yeah. I just think that we might want to take a look at this when we're talking about how long we're going to let the league games be scheduled out. If there's a high proportion of these late rescheduled games that don't actually end up happening, then maybe we need to not let them do these late rescheduled games next year.
It was just because of the hurricane, really, that had created this situation.
Well, yeah, but every year we say, do you want to make all the games, which we used to have? We used to have matches. They had to be done by October 15th.
Yeah, I think a lot of these March, April games don't end up getting played, and I think we could fix it by not allowing teams to keep continually pushing games back and back and back and back.
I do agree on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we need to come up with a bylaw that encompasses that. Can you say then we have to have one that only one pushback, or do we start charging them after a while?
Honestly, I think that the senior teams should be done by the end of February. I think
Well,
all the senior teams should be done by the end of February because it's so hard to keep those high school age kids engaged when you get later in the year.
Yeah, but you got to look at exceptional years. Now in my division, my U18s, when the hurricane come through, we had 2 to 3 weeks where there was fields that could not be played on. So if you give a deadline of when to play, then what do you do in exceptional seasons when you have hurricanes?
Well, I think obviously that's an extreme exception when you have a hurricane that devastated territory within our league boundaries. I'm not necessarily talking about this year past. I'm more talking about the future. Let's set it up where all the senior games have to be done by the end of February. And then if we have an exceptional event,
then we push it back.
We can make an exception. But I just think maybe we want to move that Mendoza line up from the end of March to the end of February to encourage them to get these games done so that we don't have a lot of late season games that don't ever happen.
Right.
Well, but if we drive to that, remember, you might not get them at all, Joe. In other words, we're saying if we force people to do this, they'll do it. That may not be good.
And I think that's part of a larger conversation. You know, just off the top of my head, I can name the U16 girls Division I, where we allowed that to be a 15-game schedule. And I think we talked on one of these calls a couple months ago that we're gonna cap these senior seasons at 10 or 12 games. That's the most that we're gonna do with these because they don't want to play that many games.
The issue we went with to farther into March was because to do it in January, February, they got playoff games and they're still in their high school seasons. That was the reason.
Correct.
Not that we couldn't shorten it. We didn't want it done like in January, but the reason we made it to March 31st was because they were still playing high school soccer. If you recall.
I do, and I don't disagree with that at all. And I'm like I say, I don't have a problem with what we did this year. We did what we had to do to adjust to the natural circumstances.
But Joe, what you're saying is we need a rule. You want to put in a rule. You want to propose a rule change that says that every game is done now by the end of February. I think. I
think for the senior season, yeah.
So you put that in. Well, junior too. I mean, why let the juniors go?
Well, I don't think it's as hard. I don't think it's as hard to keep the younger teams together as it is the older teams, right. And they're not starting as earlier. They're not the junior teams aren't starting play until mid-October. The senior teams are starting play in early August. Why do they need until April to finish?
Well, it's only been the members because the members wanted that. In other words, if the members don't want it now, that's where we switch it back. So we go back to the membership to see what they want, but we can only do that with the proposal to limit it. In other words, you got to have a bylaw saying, okay, we're going to limit it. Now we get it out to everybody, and they say, oh, no, shoot, or great, one of the two. And if that's what we want to do, then we got to put that in as a rule change, or and get it to the members and say, hey, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we could do as an alternative, and I think I've mentioned this before, is we could have a fall season and a spring season where we have an 8-game fall season and it's done. And then we have an 8-game spring season and they can reseed from Division I, Division II, Division III, and have 2 seasons instead of 1 season in a calendar year. And then the teams that do want to play games in February, March, April can do that. And the teams that don't can just play the fall season rather than have 1 season.
We need to have that in terms of a rule change proposal. You see what I'm saying? So we have everybody put it out there and say, what do you guys think? Say, no, I want 1 season. I don't want 2 seasons, or I want 2 seasons. Because heretofore, Joe, every time we've proposed either one of these things, it has always been overwhelmingly, no, we want the end of March and we don't want 2 seasons. So until we get a change and the only way we see if there's a change is to propose a rule change for us. To say, hey.
So to Joe's idea, let me throw up, we're a promotion and relegation system. So you go 2 seasons. So which season counts towards promotion and relegation? So you want to play fall, but then you don't want to play spring. So there's a lot of issues you're dealing with there. So throw that factor in.
You make a great point, Merritt, and we certainly would have to, have a plan to deal with that and other issues affecting the 2 leagues.
But we need a plan. In other words, Joe, to get from where we are right now to where we want to go, we need those things fleshed out. And because if we leave tonight, we say, well, so propose a rule change, and then people will vote against it or for it. It's much easier. You could argue about, not argue, you could debate this endlessly, and we have every year, not every year, but most years. And every time we do, we come up with the same answers. So let's do it again and see if we come up with the same answer.
All right. Well, I'll try to talk to some people at leagues that do a fall league and a spring league and see how they do it. Rather than just coming back to you guys with an off-the-cuff comment. Yeah. Well, I'll come back to you with a real plan.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things like Merritt has. There's about 18 things in the 2 leagues that are really tough to do that people may not realize. But if enough people get it, they'll have gone through it and say, "No, we don't want to do that again," because it's resetting a league at that point takes a lot of work. Referees, resetting it, the whole thing. So
scheduling field.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. But if that's what the membership wants to do and thinks that that's advantageous for some reason, that's what we're here to do. To be.
Hey Joe, what kind of time frame you talking about from when to when?
Well, he'll come back with something. That's what he said.
I just wondered if he knew off the top of his head what time frame he's looking at.
Well, I think, just to do it in broad strokes, I think that if you did it that way, I think the senior teams, because when the schedule first comes out, their games are from August to October, and then they take their games and they push a bunch of them into January through March. If you had the option for 2 separate ones, then you could have a season that goes August through October for the senior teams, and maybe September through November or early December for the January or for the junior teams, and then reset everything after the first of the year so that you have a mid-January through maybe end of March type spring league. So you have 10 to 12 weeks in the fall, you have 10 to 12 weeks in the spring for both a senior and a junior. I think you might see low participation from the seniors in the spring, particularly, the 17s, 18s, 19 types, just because, they got prom and they got graduation, they got this and they got that. But the junior teams that are taking things seriously would love to get their regular season started before mid to late October. I think they would gobble that up. Now that's me, and you asked for off the top of my head, but that would be us offering something that CDL and the other leagues in our area do not offer. So that's the broad strokes on it to answer your question.
Yeah, I think, Joe, the only thing you do is put it in there, and we hit the membership and vote on it. It's an idea. You could poke holes in anybody's thing. That's a tough time. I think Merritt hit it on the head. January is a really tough time to get in any schedule. We throw that back to Sherry. Our problem really gets to be on the clerical end, trying to change all these games around, because you'll have all kinds of teams not being able to play because they're playing. The teams are playing in the season tournaments in high school, and they're playing in the tournaments. The Commissioners Cup, all of those weekends are in there too. Getting referees for those weekends, There's a lot of negative things that happen in the spring that we're working around currently, and kind of we're doing okay. And like I said, when the impression is that we aren't getting our games in, but when you look at the actual statistics of the games, that's not the case. I mean, we're concentrating on a few games we see that are a pain in the ass, which they are. The only league you really have a problem with participation is in the 19s, and that's like 6% and 8%, which is way higher than the rest of the league. And we all know the 8% is the 19 girls, and we know what that brings. Now, if you got a problem, maybe that's where to go. And maybe we stuff the 19s, 18s, and 17s together in like a high school, so the league has some continuity. We just play under 19s and under 16s. That's another idea. So you got plenty of teams to play. You don't have to worry about the teams that don't want to play it, and tell them not to bother. Because the girls, you had I think 112 matches, and I see here we missed 9. But that's 8%. And everything else, I mean, if you look at the rest of the league as far as the way we're scheduled, our rates are very low. 17 boys, 1%. 16 boys, 3%. 15 boys, 1%. 15 girls, 2%. 16 girls, 2%. 17 girls, 1%. 15 girls, no missing. So it's not something that really is needs to be. And Joe, that was sent. Sherry sent that out. If you click through the things, that's where those statistics are. If you click through what she sent you, one of the clicks is this analysis. And she sent. I don't know, maybe you didn't get it. It was an email with a group of things. The attachment.
I got it.
You click through those attachments, there it is. And I asked her to do that because every year we go through this thinking, wow, man, it's a pain in the ass not having these. We got to do something about it.
Scroll down, Greg. Just scroll down a little bit.
I mean, I'd like to do something about it too.
This one?
Better.
No, keep going.
Oh, keep going. Sorry.
Game count. Yep, that's it.
So anyway, that's our and the 9s, and we got some issues there. And I think next, before we're at the AGM, but there's another. We're not getting reports in those age groups, and we know we're not getting reports in because we don't control the center. So the centers are the ones that are supposed to give us that. And I talked to Greg. I don't know how to get that. I don't even know if it's a problem. In other words, if you don't have the results of all the matches, you're not promoting and relegating 9s and 10s anyway. 10s to 11s, it leaves you a little bit bereft at the 11s to try and set them up. But by 11, if you've got the right, you've got the game results, you go into 12s fairly well, and at least have some feel for how to put the team in the league. We've got in 11s 2% and 3%, and we're not getting the game, or you're not getting the results. And as long as the 10s are a problem, everyone's got to think about that. For me, no. And I thought about there's a way to make that better, and that's to set a financial incentive. We up that fee, and we set a financial incentive for those clubs to get those results to you, right? And the extra fees you charge at 9 and 10s, that's what the fees go toward. Having somebody say, if you get all your games in, we'll give you $300. That's the only way I can see that you would improve getting results. It's not that the games aren't being played at 9s and 10s. We're not getting results. We're not getting the scores in the game. And frankly, you know, even though they're in a league and we're trying to get that, it doesn't seem like the next year it's going to matter. We're not going to relegate them.
Is that because and the last thing I want to do is make Merritt mad, but is that because the referees that are working those games are not turning them in, or is it because a high percentage of the results from the older games are turned in by the coaches and these younger coaches don't know to do that? Or
well, it's the referee's responsibility. That's not the coach's.
So
We're just we can't
You won't get me mad. I jump on the referees harder than you do, believe me.
No, it's that the club is appointing or is assigning that center. So there's very.
So why are the centers in these U9 games not turning in results?
Well, I mean, if I had an opinion, and we don't know, nobody knows. But I mean, if you had to guess, I would say that there's very poor communication and management from the club to the center to get that done. And I would say the reason is you're dealing with volunteers at the club in the main, so they're not very good at making sure that the second a game's over, say send that report in, which is what they should be doing. That's the club.
I'll address that for Joe. It's because I was out there I was over at Oldsmar one day and I stopped by and saw a young referee. He couldn't have been 16, 17. He's doing an under 9. Does he know what to do administratively? No. He didn't even know what the pass back line was. He was somewhat familiar with whether they could punt the ball or not. So even them, you know, they're local referees that don't have a ton of experience 99 times out of 10. And they're the young referees. So it's going to – we should put more pressure on the clubs to help.
Yeah, it's a club issue, though, Merritt, no matter what you'll do.
Correct, exactly.
That's where it gets solved. If you feel you have to solve it.
All right.
Well, we got to give them a reason to solve it. How about that?
Well, how about that's the responsibility? How about that? We expect them to do it because they expect us to show with 2 teams for them to referee.
Correct. So if we can't show them, all we can say is then you got to go back to your clubs because we have already told the club. I mean, from us, Mike, there's no doubt that we have expressed to the club that we need those game reports.
You know, just so you guys know, I've been beating up the assigners, our league assigners, just about every month because A, there's not enough ARs. B, there's some centers that are not showing up for stuff. And C, one of the things I tried to point out to them was that you all agreed to pay him $3 more per game, and with that comes the responsibility of shepherding and the club assigner and making sure that there's assigners assigned and they follow the rules that every other referee does.
Yeah.
And I get pushback from them every time. They say that's not their job.
Well, do you have an alternative for those assigners?
For those assigners that say it's not their job?
All the assigners.
Well, we just put 2 in down below the bridge. I'm sure there's a couple more up north that would like to get involved.
Well, I guess to help Zach there, there's assigners. We have our assigners that work for our league, the Bars, the Tony,
right.
Who was put down south. But then now we got another, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 assigners at all the different clubs. And those are not under our preview. They're not under our responsibility.
No, they're not under our management either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're asking where's the accountability, and those assigners figure, well, I work for the club. I don't work for the league.
Correct. And that's one of the failings of the
Process.
our environment. I mean, we're a volunteer organization with volunteer members.
Well,
we're not. You can't getting things done.
Well, one way to
Comes with
address it,
cooperation.
if these leagues, if these clubs want us to manage the 9 and 10-year-old league, then they have to have some accountability to getting in the scores and all that.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of push, right? We get your clubs. They want to have a competitive under 8, under 9, under 10, but then they don't want to hold somebody accountable, because the next year, when those under 10s want to go to under 11s or under 12s, and they're through regulation, and we go, well, we got no scores on you guys. Well, we won all our games. Well, we don't know that.
No,
So
but again, we have in other words, we contact those guys. If now the next question is, what penalty do we give them if they do not do what we want them to do? That's the question. We don't have a penal, we don't have we don't have a negative result for these guys because we don't manage them. We have nothing to do with them other than kicking them out of the league. We are nagging them already, but we don't have anything beyond that. Not that I want it, but we don't have anything. Our management technique doesn't have we can't penalize them for lack of performance. That's the problem.
Well, that's part of the bylaws. We need to put it in both.
Can we find them? Can we put a fine in place?
Sure you can.
Sure you can.
I wouldn't vote for it, but I mean, you can certainly try. I wouldn't vote for it.
Could you have it, Paul, that for those age groups only, the coaches send the scores in?
Anything you think that will help. And look, the other thing is, Sherry, you end up following up a lot of these yourself anyway. Can we even help? Can we put a positive incentive? Is there something other than a negative incentive we can put in there to get better results on this thing?
You mean, Paul, you're not asking us to reward them for doing something that they're supposed to do?
Well, yeah, Mike, I would, because if you want to get it done, in other words, if I don't want to get it done, we can go back to the penalties. But I mean, if you really want to get it done, you've got to put some incentive for them to do it, because we know why they're not doing it. They're lazy. They're not paying attention. That's really what it is.
Well, I'm not even going to say they're lazy. They don't feel like it's.
I don't know if they even know. Yeah, it's a combination of all those things, but it's lack of management, principally, that someone isn't telling them, hey, put the goddamn scores in every week. You don't have that at the club level often enough. So if we really want to solve that, we're going to have to figure out a way, either positive incentives or negative incentives. The negative incentives are very tough because we have a membership that probably doesn't want to get fined. I would think most of the members would be in favor of that.
Well, the positive, Paul, would be that it counts towards promotion. If they come to our meeting and want to put a team in some win-loss record.
No doubt about it. So we eliminate teams if the club doesn't.
Why don't you tell them that they'll get a discount on their next year's registration fees or something like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I was saying is we charge them more and then send the money back as an incentive. You say the reason we got to pay $500 to play U9 is because we're not getting team results. So we're going to pay you $1,000 each to get those results in if you get them all. It sounds asinine, but that's how you get it.
Sounds good.
That's really the insanity of this is we we can't manage because we really aren't a management entity. We don't have in any management thing, you have responsibility, right, and authority go hand in hand. We have all the responsibility and no authority.
I think something where you give them some sort of a credit towards the following year's registration is probably the best way to go, because then you're giving them a reward, but you're also getting they only get the reward if they commit to be in our league the next year.
Come here, quick. Oh, you're on that?
All right, but I mean, that's something we got another little issue by next month. We want to have some idea of what we want to do with it, if we're going to put it into the bylaws or we're going to make it a rule. So, we're going to be here all night if we keep running down, but take a look at the rest of these. I mean, some of them I don't personally agree with, but it's, we can vote on all of them when it comes to the AGM. I wouldn't raise the registration fees. Financially, it seems like we're doing fairly well, but if everyone else wants to, that's fine by me.
Wouldn't raising the fees be determined by if we end up doing something with the advertising company or somebody like that?
Even if you did that, Mark, you wouldn't need to do that. I mean, you can, but you wouldn't need to. You're gonna have. Well, we don't know this year. From a budget standpoint, we'll probably be about break even, but we're still carrying about 30,000 extra plus the 100,000 that sits in that one account, which we keep thinking is going to be for some large investment that we might have to make. But actually, from a cash flow standpoint, there's really no way to argue to the members that you need to go up, other than you want to do more stuff.
Well,
that's got to be up to them.
I'm looking at number 5 on that list, and that's going to take some money to be able to promote those two.
Right. That's if we think that's important for us to fund.
Right.
I mean, all of the things, the extra $50. My argument from a membership standpoint would be, I am not going to the Dannon Cup, and 12 kids aren't going. I don't want to be paying another $50 for someone else to go to the Dannon Cup, even though I have a chance to go. I don't think you'll find most people agreeable to wanting to tax themselves another $50 to do that. I don't know that, but I don't think so. If we're not in dire, in other words, from a monetary standpoint, we're break even now, and we did the college showcase, which we paid for, and we did the Rene Lopez thing, which we paid for, and we still can do some things. We can still do the college thing. To get sponsorships, I would think, Greg, would be the better way to do that, but we haven't been successful doing that. So read down these things. In other words, all these things are good ideas to do, but what we ran into this year. You got to be very careful adding things for us to do, because us can't do them many times. Like, well, here's a good one. Limit the amount of reschedule after draft rescheduling period. Or
that was from me.
I think that's good, Gary. Or else what? Just say you can't reschedule.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Greg can easily pull up Got Soccer, and I could show you.
Oh, no.
I count how many there was, and
it's absurd. It's absurd.
I can't count. I think it's like between 1,000 and 1,500 games that we scheduled.
We just eliminated it on some. I agree with you. It's gotten to be insane.
Yeah,
so
it's like
eliminate them. Let's just eliminate it totally and see what happens. That will be, what that'll look like, but that's okay. It'll take everybody a year or two to get used to not having so many games.
Or maybe give them I don't know, they can change anything, during the draft period, and then maybe you're allowed maybe 1 or 2 per team.
Well, I get you, are you going to keep track? Can you
I don't
keep
know.
track of that? See, that right away puts more pressure on you to keep. Says, hey, this is your second one. We can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess.
I like
whatever's
that. I
gonna
mean,
be
that makes sense. Just think about a way that it'll work practically,
Yeah,
because we got to cut some of that down.
yeah.
It's insane.
Are we resolving anything as we go down these lists?
Yeah, the reschedules. If we're either going to reschedule or we're not going to reschedule, Merritt, what do you think? More reschedules, or are we allowing people to reschedule next year?
What number are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm at 11, only because the other ones, look, some of these things we're just going to have to vote on. There's no sense us arguing now. If we want to put these up to as a rule change, we'll get to them at the AGM, and we'll either they'll go up or down by a vote. I mainly wanted to look at them.
Y'all didn't talk about number 6. You didn't talk about number 6. I was just,
6. Now we're going backwards.
Well, I'm saying all of these things, read them all, because next month these will be proposed as rule changes. We can't eliminate them now. Joe's going to add some.
Hey,
So
Merritt, we've got 6 on a verbal agreement with the assigners.
So when that comes up, in other words, in May, we're going to vote on this stuff, Merritt. I'm just exposing us now early, so that meeting isn't 7 hours long. And so read them, start thinking about them, and everyone come with an idea and say, hey, I don't like it, I'm not voting for it.
well, I know you got an agreement with the assigners, but I was more in.
Some of them I am, but I mean, I don't even have to vote until it gets tied. So, but you guys really need to be aware of all of these before we get the meeting in May. That's why I put them out there tonight.
So we're going from what? Well, let me clarify numbers.
May's the AGM.
So we're going from 48 hours. We're going from a week to 48 hours, right? Zach, is that correct?
I'm sorry, Merritt, come again?
On number 6, we're going from 7 days to 48 hours?
Yes, and the assigners made a verbal agreement to that about 3-4 months ago. If the game's canceled and notification goes out 48 hours in advance, there's no payment. They agreed to that.
Well, yeah, they're the guys. I would be more inclined for 72 hours. I'm not good with 48, but 72.
Okay, well then we change it to 72. That's the whole idea.
That's why I'm kind of agreeing that it should be 7 days, but at least 3 days.
Okay, but that's why these are out there, for them to be massaged.
I mean, this is what this is. We're not going to debate them all tonight, but we're just looking at some and getting in it. But we've got to go through these next time we meet will be the AGM. Am I correct, Chair?
Yes.
And these things will be up to be voted on, or debated and voted on. So if we have formed opinions, then we can get it done fairly quickly and just vote.
Yeah, but okay.
Well,
I'm just saying we might, as a board, kind of evaluate them and look at them. I know these.
Well, and I think even during a month, we can go back and forth ourselves with this stuff until we get to next month.
We just solved number 6. I think 72 would be a little fair towards the referees.
Yeah. May not be Joe, and for the other people may not feel that way. That's what I'm saying. When it's a vote next week, next month we'll vote. But we can do a lot of this stuff also during the month. There's nothing to say we can't start discussing a lot of this shit now instead of next in May. Like I said, we'll be there for 12 hours going through all these an hour each, So try and look at them, read them, think about them, and say, hey, 12, I don't agree with this. It's crazy. So we'll know right away we can start to change it or vote against it or whatever. But they're all ideas for things to go out as a rule change. And we got to get them in. They got to be in 2 weeks or something. So that's why we're letting them. This is from the board. Yeah, this is from the board. The members can come and they can get them in also if they got rule changes. Like Joe's going to come up with something. But there's a cutoff to that. before the AGM. It's got to be 20 days before the AGM in May, Merit, to be considered as a rule change. So that's why we're trying to, this meeting is to get them out to everybody and take a look at them. All right. What else we got? We were in the executive. Let's get to the executive session. When we're done with this, we'll go through. We'll look at the page 2 in the executive session. So we're going to adjourn. Everybody, please vote on it. Somebody please, make a motion to adjourn this meeting. We'll start the executive committee meeting.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion.
Third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
All in favor?
Second.
All right. Executive committee. Protest appeals none. Hearing. You look. Approve the minutes. Alan, would you make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go. We reviewed the unplayed games report. That is the thing we have in hands. A USA Marketing League proposal. My sense of it is, and I got a lot of good stuff on email about this, so I got a lot of good information already, that this as is not going to work. Okay, do we all agree with that? Anybody disagree? This as proposed doesn't work, but now we have a proposal. I sent out an email. Did everyone get to read that? It wasn't, I mean, it ain't the Gettysburg Address, but did you understand? There's really 3 parts to this. I don't think, to me, I don't need the second and third part yet at all. Does anybody agree with that or disagree?
No, I kind of agree with you. I could see it was broken down into 3 parts.
Yeah, so let's get to the other parts later on. We don't need to make any decisions about it because it seems to me the website is a discussion we have to have. We don't all agree on the reasons we have a website, and that's the first thing we probably got to come up with before we have someone manage it or change it. And that's where we got to come to, what does the website work for? That is not for tonight. But it seems like that website idea is either we change it, they're going to manage it. That's great, but not now. That's nothing. That's not in our plans today. And I don't think the third part of it is necessary yet until we get over the first part. Here is what I propose. Look at that. We take the first plan, we get back to them and say, look, help us develop a plan, and here's to me what the plan is. We're looking for a professional company to help us get some ideas on this rebranding. In other words, the reimmersion of what we are, to decide that we do have a mission statement, which is pretty good. We can do better on that, and I'm looking for them to help us get that. They're looking to do a survey, which I know, Mark, you said, and I think you're right, that's all they're going to do.
Right.
But if they design a survey, at least we can start to get some feedback and decide, here's what we're doing. This board, has been more activist as far as what we should or could be doing for our members. But it seems like, and if you don't agree with this, let me know. It seems like our number one priority, before anything, is the league has to run professionally, fairly, efficiently. And it seems to me, looking at this, how many games we've missed and all this other stuff, we do a pretty good job of that right now. It could always be improved, and the kind of things we're talking about is good. But I think the money that we have spent and the clerical part of our thing, and even the interaction with the website, from a coach's standpoint, is really good and doesn't need to have a lot of anything done to it. This league is running, in my opinion, and it's not because I'm president or anything else, this league is running very efficiently. We're getting at all our problems. Problems don't sit around. They don't fester. digging out the problems where we don't have it. We're communicating back and forth. Everyone on the board of directors has an open right to agree to put ideas in. Members, the same thing. We're not stifling anybody, but we're running most of our matches. Most of them are taking place. We have some behavioral problems, but they're not extreme, in my opinion. We have them, and we're always going to have them. But from an efficiency standpoint, the number one job, 100% of why we're here, is to run this league so that every kid shows up at a match, and it can be as much fun as you're going to have that Saturday. There'll be 2 teams there. The field will be ready to play on, and will be good. The nets will be there. There will be an impartial referee, and they will play that match under some supervision that at least allows them to continue to play. That
Impartial referee.
and this seems to
Who's
be
cleaning the house there? Can you mute, please?
what that seems to be what our league is about. Help me if I'm not hitting the right point. Right? Does everybody kind of agree with that?
Well, we're doing what we say we're going to do, and that's I agree.
And the best we can do is in other words, for people coming back in the league or all this other stuff, is to run the league as well as it can be run. That's the attraction of coming to this league. You're going to get 14 matches in or whatever you're going to get. It's going to be agreed upon. You're going to be put in a league, at least most teams feel that is where the talent level your team has, so that all the games will matter. You're not going to get killed, or there's not going to be so much uneven stuff. They're not going to be haphazard. Everybody, you look at the reschedules are insane. But the fact is, we did reschedule all those matches. Everybody got service that needed to of our customers. That's 3,500 matches. So that's our job. That's what we do. Correct? I mean, can we change that? No, right? I mean, we can be better at it, and we can always improve that. But these guys, this HCP, are not going to help us in that regard whatsoever. Don't you figure, Mark, Mike?
I definitely agree. Yeah.
I don't see them. We're better at that than anybody, as far as I'm concerned.
And no one's come up with what's our end product. I mean, what are we gonna? What's our gain? There's no gain by ripping down a website that works.
Well, right. That's my point. Is if we get into the first part of that with them, Mark, here's what I'm thinking. If we get into the first phase of this, and we see they can somehow get us to see things of where we can go with this, because we're really talking about now the next things we can do in the rebranding effort. That is, help every kid we can get to every level he can, be exposed to anything he can honestly. But that's after we provide the best match possible every Saturday that he could possibly have. The next thing we do is what we're talking about, the rebranding, helping our clubs now something outside of that club can do, a collective event like the college showcase and things like that, that define us, help define us as a league or change us. So our interaction with this HCP seems to be maybe they have some ideas about how to rebrand us or whatever this is that we haven't thought about yet. My idea is let's at least enter into that phase and see if they've got anything insight from whatever they're going to do, because I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I got an idea of marketing, but is just to take step one, right, and see where that leads us, because we already know who we are. We want to rebrand. We want to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing for them. And I think our role, I think we're starting to find now, one of the complaints that people always had with me when I was arguing with them or we were discussing this is that Paul, you don't allow kids to aspire to be something because you're not willing to bullshit them. And that's what I think. It's all bullshit. Their argument is you're not even allowing them to aspire, to dream, to reach. Now, you're telling them right away that, they're no good and they'll never be any good. And I know that's an extreme view of it, but that's what I'll get back sometimes. And that always stops me because that's correct. That is defeating for us. It's not that's not a positive thing for us to be bringing into this. It's a negative. And in my opinion, that's what some brilliant mind has to do to establish what we really are bringing to that kid's life. And I know I don't want to bore you with a 1-minute thing, but I had an under 10 girls team. This is my experience, but it really hits the nail on the head. An under 10 girls team in a tournament, under 10 girls team in the history of soccer is as far back as you get. We're playing in under 12 maybe. We're playing in a tournament. We're in the final. The final has gone. The first half has been magnificent. The people screaming and yelling. The girls are doing stuff they've never done before. I get over there at halftime, and their eyes are so wide open. They're so full of adrenaline. The girls that are sitting there, I felt it, and I realized, and I said to them, this is as good as this game gets. This is as good as any sport ever gets. The feeling you have right now, and that's really what it is. That feeling, being in a match like that doesn't mean anything to anybody. Being inside of it, being stimulated like this by the sport is when the sport takes off and becomes something other than just another game. And every Saturday, that's what we're selling in our league. It's the potential for every single match that a kid goes in to take off and be that match, because you ain't going to play a whole lot of them in your lifetime, kid. And every single game we want the setup for that insanity, that great feeling. And that's what something like that is what we got to sell. These guys may be able to capture something like that, because that's a positive. That's what we're really doing. We're providing the spark that becomes that magnificent feeling that you get only when you're out there playing in a match like that. Does anybody disagree with that, or can you refine it? But that's what I want them to refine. That's be my argument for taking the first step with these guys, is that's what I want them to refine.
But, something that I brought up earlier was that if they're just going to send a survey to our existing base of customers, if you will, what are we going to find out? They're already here. They believe in us. They have to have some outside source that they can go to have people tell us, hey, this is why we don't go to USA, because we don't think you guys are very competitive. And we can then start focusing on, well, this team won a state cup. This team won this. This team won this. We know what to say. When someone says, well, USA is not a good league, what do we say back? We don't have anything to say back. So going back to our guys that are already in the league doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think, but Mark, I would argue their argument is that's why they're going to them. Maybe we're missing something, because we don't get the feedback we get is they join the league the next year, which agreed is 90% of what you're going to get. But maybe there's something, that's what I'm saying. Maybe there's something we're missing in this, that these guys, if they bring us back what you're saying, right, then we can stop right there. We don't need to spend another penny on anything. But these guys are in the business of understanding from an outside standpoint what you're doing. I'm sure they will, or I'm not sure. I would hope that they would also go to the teams. I could tell them, but I might have to be right. You can't join this league if you are charging X amount of dollars, because the parents don't believe it. So that's why you got to rebrand this thing to get the parents to understand this is the experience your child really needs. And that's somehow, hopefully, they can get to that. If the survey is the only thing they do, Mark, I agree with you. But we can't know that without making the next step. It was like the lawyer we got. We didn't know what we were going to find when we hired him, because we hired him to tell us, okay, we got anything in the bylaws we need to know. Well, he went through them and we got an answer.
Mark, so I guess, Paul, so to answer Mark's question, do you think we need like on our website, something with talking points. Hey, this is the teams that we promoted last year. This was our showcase. In other words, like I'm sure Kai would agree is having, something on the webpage that tells them what we did as a league, with the scholarships and with the
what we do.
That's what Kai does. Yeah.
Have you gone to the website? There's a lot of that on there.
Yeah.
The question,
it ought to be the first page.
The question is, who reads it? How many people go to the website? Sherry, how hard would it be or how difficult would it be to put a counter on the bottom of the homepage so we know how many people actually visit the site?
You have that built in already, I guarantee you.
Yes, but you don't know if they're on the site to find out, to get the form for the last game.
No, you can find each page they visited and how long they were there, everything.
Yeah, but that gets back to, let's forget the website for the moment, Merritt.
People are going to be on our Facebook page a hell of a lot more than they're going to be on our website. People are on Facebook all day, every day.
I mean, here's something I'll throw out at you. The kids that play soccer in the USA League, how many times a week, how much time do you think they spend thinking about our league? Nothing.
None.
All they do is they know they have games and there's going to be another team there, like you said, they're going to play.
Mike and I met with a guy. There's a guy, what's his name, Mike? The guy from Alabama.
Rocky.
And I'll tell you, the guy really is a thinker in this thing. I mean, he's really ahead of the game. And, he made about 4 or 5 points. The one is, where does a kid get all their information from? Where? The coach. Right? The coach. It comes from the coach. 90% of what they're getting, the information the parents and the kids are getting, are from that coach. And the coach, as far as they're concerned, is the club and is the league.
Correct.
I look at it this way.
But I hadn't thought about that. Without talking to Rocky, it wouldn't occur to me, yeah, you're right. That's the whole thing, right?
When you're coaching, right, and you get the older kids or even the younger kids or the parents, you send out an email saying we're going to be playing PCU this week. Here's the game time. Here's the field. Cut and paste the directions. If for some reason, go to USA's site and go look for it. That's what they use it for, right? I mean, they're not. I don't see where we're going to get a gain in membership because we have a pretty website.
I agree, but again, that's the website question. Let's go back to the original one because I'd like to do something.
Well, I'm going to disagree with Mark over there because I think that US Club League sells their entire league through their website because they brag about who they are. They brag about their teams. They brag about what they offer. They brag about all the things that they put on their website.
Okay, but if I'm a player on a team and my coach has no interest in going to US Club, how is that going to help me?
Well, but if we have an exciting, I think that the areas that we don't take great advantage is we don't brag about the game, actual game. We don't brag about it, and we don't brag about the teams that are doing well in our league or the players that are doing well in our league.
Okay, but that's something we can do. We don't need anybody to do that for us.
No, if the coaches and the club and the teams don't want to brag about it,
correct.
How are we going to get the information?
But again, let's stay away from the website because that's a deeper discussion and because there's a whole thing about what you got a website for. Mike and I, to some degree, think that there's a potential there to do something, but it's still got to be efficient. The website, as for a business tool, works very well. I mean, there's nothing you can't get to real readily if you're a coach and need some information. You can get it right off of that website. There's drop downs, everything in there to manage your teams and to manage in our league is on that website as a management tool. It's tremendous. Now, if we want it to be a promotional tool, that's a question we've got to answer ourselves. These guys won't get there, but that may be part of what their suggestion is, that the website needs to be more. But I don't want to get into redesigning a website or then managing a website. My idea is we take the first part of this thing, this proposal, right, and see what it brings us. We can
Well, I
assess
can
it
already-
afterwards.
All businesses and even U.S. Soccer now, it's a multi-pronged attack, and it's with Facebook, it's with your website, it's with
Instagram,
Twitter, and all that stuff. So I mean, it's multi-pronged, and like when we go to a GA Academy thing, you know, the first question they ask, who all has been on our website and who's getting their Twitter feed, and that's what they ask the young referees, and over half the room goes up. So it's so Paul, to say, you know, I think, you know, with the stuff's right in front of us, and we don't need to go real far to get a little more work on the Facebook with the webpage, as far as what Mike's talking about, touting our successes in our game and bragging about what we've done and where we're going.
So what you're really
But I
talking about
wouldn't,
is
I
that we
wouldn't
need to get
want
more
to pay,
involved
I
in.
wouldn't want to pay $36,000 a year as a retainer to do that.
no, we don't have to do that. No.
That's my point.
No, not at all.
And we don't have to redesign the website yet unless we find out exactly what we're doing in the redesign and why, and if it's efficient for the guys in our thing, which are Sherry and Greg, for them to manage that website, because 90% of the management is managing 500 teams. That's the first thing we do on that website, and that is pretty effective. I mean, you don't want to mess with that. My thing is, we go into this research and planning phase, and we spend the 20 grand and see if we get what we get out of that, because these guys do this for a living. If they come back with 7 things that we never even thought of, that's fantastic. Then we'll see about implementing them and whether they make sense for us to implement them. But we can't start out with anything more than that. That's how I would like to go back to these guys and say, that's interesting. Now we'll focus better. We'll know more what we want to sell, you know, and you will help us put a fine point on that, because you understand what moves people around.
So what is our end game though? What do we, by all these 7 things that they just came up with, what would we call it a success if we go ahead and do it? Increase enrollment?
You know, Mark, you're asking for a metric, and I don't know. It's like a business. We aren't, and maybe they can help define that too. What defines success? 700 teams? Well, we're limited. Don't forget, our metric, I mean, in the end, Mark, would be every team that plays soccer in our area plays in our league. That would be 100% success, right?
Okay.
Okay. So in that metric, what percentage have we got now? And what percentage will we get later? Well, a lot of that has to do with things outside of our control, but maybe not. Maybe they're saying, can we improve 10%? Can we pick up another 50 teams based on the appearance, based on what we sell to people?
I think, real quick, I mean, our strength are on the administrative end, and we're the largest league, I think, probably in the top 3 in the state, okay, in size.
Oh, for sure.
I think where we struggle at the end of the day is, and that's the decision we got to make, is where we struggle is, in my opinion, we don't provide on the higher end. We're talking about the premier teams. I don't think we provide how do I put this in a good way? I mean, at the end of the day, we struggle to provide a quality product for higher level teams. I mean, from Division II on down, we're fantastic. From the bottom premier teams, we're great. I mean, how much bigger are we going to get? I don't think we're going to get much bigger, because you're going to have the only two clubs we really don't have involved is what maybe Florida or the Chargers. TBU even has teams in our league, so we're getting everybody in our area. We're just not getting the top tier teams.
Well, and now the question becomes, and let's say we got this HCP guys in, then you're telling them that, and you're citing that as one of the success metrics that we would like to have everybody back, the best teams, and only playing playing the USA League. How do we do that? And that's one of the things we ask them in their opinion. Is there a methodology? Is there a plan that you can think of, guys, given what you know, for us to attract those top teams? My own personal opinion is, Kai, you'll never get them because they are those.
You're not going to get them, but I think one of the things we might need to look at, and we haven't looked at, is this working relationship with the Region B League to create this Champions League kind of format you would only get through us, and just something like that that no one else has, or something that no one else.
When we get to that, Kai, we should come out with that. That is an idea we should give to them and say, all right, is that something? Because every time we're going to do one of those things, you have got at least 60, 70 hours of volunteer time that takes to do that. Now, is that more valuable than something else? And what I say is, if these guys can steer us to get a hierarchy of things, we can decide, because we don't have the manpower to do any of this stuff.
I think we've got a lot of good Division I teams. I don't know that our problem is necessarily attracting more. I think our problem is more retaining the ones that we have. And it kind of goes to the discussion that we had earlier about the integrity of Division I. If we start letting Division I get larger than 8 teams, we start watering down the quality of it. It should be a privilege to be in Division I in our league. I know we're an inclusive league and we want to have a place for everybody to play. And I think that's great at the Division II.
We've got that in place. The only time we've ever break that, Joe, is because we've got a specific issue in one league at one time. We're always striving to keep 8 in that first division. That's not what these guys are going to do for us. We already have that in the bylaws. I'm saying these guys, what I'm asking is, let's go forward and see what they do, because I have no idea what they're going to come up with, but we know we got 12 issues.
I guess what I'm saying, Paul, is, before we spend money to bring more people in, we need to talk about our retention issues, where Division I teams, good Division I teams, think they need to leave our league because our Division I brackets aren't solid from top to bottom because we let too many teams into them.
But Joe, that's my question. In other words, when they do a survey, if that comes up, right, it's just like this issue. We're not getting enough games played. We look at it, we have 1%. In other words, an impression is one thing. Are we really losing that many of those teams for that reason? And that's like guys like this, you tell them that's one of the things we want to find out.
So Paul, who are they surveying?
I have no idea. I mean, they're going to survey. I know at least what the survey that they can do. They'll survey who they can get from us. I would like them to survey everybody else. When we start talking to them, we'll find out how they're going to survey.
Yeah. So they get.
I don't know how they're going to. I don't know how they're going to conduct their business, Merritt, because I don't do it. I'm hiring.
I know, but you're selling the point. You're trying to sell this thing to us. You're trying to push it, and I'm not understanding.
This is the only thing I do. We can not even do any of this. My point is, if we're gonna, this is how to do it. We start with one thing. If we continue to masticate it and try to figure out all the stuff they're going to do, we'll never do it. That's what happens with us. If we're going to do it, we can't take this whole plan as it is. To me, the only way we do it is to put our feet in the water. We don't do it at all.
Well,
you know what? To address something Kai talked about, we talked about it 6 months ago about trying to start, the Champions League with this other, with the other league in Orlando area.
And it's never gone anywhere. We're no further in it today than we were, Merritt, 6 months ago.
I know, but so whose responsibility is that? That's I don't know.
Well, that's the first thing, because nobody volunteered to do it, and because again, we're back to that's 70 hours of time that nobody has. That's been
so we pay these guys
great ideas, no
that tell
time.
us we need Division I, and then we still don't have anybody to develop that.
That's what we tell them. That's part of our problem. How do we solve that? Maybe they've got an idea to sponsor an employee, or maybe, because we're never going to get that done, Merritt, unless somebody stops doing things and nothing else and does that. We have a group of people here that are smarter than we need to be. We have a billion ideas, but we can't get much of them done.
I mean, part of
we don't have the time. None of us have.
Directive to HCP is that they've got to contact every club in the area, not just USA clubs.
Well, that's my whole point. If we're just, Braden River, their idea of recruiting is we send out emails to our email list. That's why our teams look identical every year you play them. It just concerns me that we're going to do the thing here.
Correct. I'm with Mark, so that's what I'm.
Yeah, I think that it's got to be, if it's got to go to all the soccer clubs in the area. If those clubs that are outside of our club says we're not interested in you because of X, then we know what the perception is.
See, I agree. I think that is a worthwhile thing to find out what everybody thinks, because
I can't. In other words, if someone on our board does not take this up, I'm done with it tonight. Because, in other words, either we do this or we don't. Because someone's got to take it, and then all of these questions we have, we then have to. If you want to ask them before you want to do this, then that's what we have to do. I don't have the time to manage their business and my own.
No, I'm not saying we're going to manage it.
But I'm fine with that, Mike. I'm not angry. I'm saying.
No, I don't want to manage their business. I want to let them know that we expect them to contact all the clubs.
Yes, but I mean, hopefully, if they don't know to do that, to tell us when they come back, we say, this is, this, we can't go any further with this. This is not really substantial information for us.
If you read the proposal, though, I think that is what they're saying. It says, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you.
No, please.
I just was reading it while y'all were talking, and it says, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Let me pull it up real
In
quick.
the assessment overview, third-party independent survey design methodology.
Right, and it says club administrators, club boards, members, parents, coaches, right? Something to that effect?
And I think if we get these guys, you got Kai, Mike, Mark, Greg, everybody feeds into them and tells them if they're doing their job, they're to us also saying, what do you think? Because we're the ones who are telling them, here's what we feel our issues are. Joe, all of us, I got to think that the board, they will come to every board member. If they don't, they're remiss. But I can't tell from this. It doesn't say I will go to every board member, because I realize this is a general proposal. I can't go down every item I'm going to do. But they should come to the board first and get all of this information to leave with, right?
Correct. Listen, we need to do something. Otherwise, we are going to be the same.
That's my point. If we start with this, it's not crippling. It's a lot of money, but it's not crippling. And if this doesn't work, if we don't get something out of this, then we really don't need to rebrand or even think about any of that stuff.
Okay,
I can see that. I don't think these guys are the solution, Mark. I don't. But if we're gonna do it, these guys at least are professionals that do this. They should come to every one of us, and we should be able to infuse into them what we see problems are and what we think an avenue of inquiry should be. We should send them off with that. If they don't do that, then they're incompetent. And if they're incompetent, we're screwed. We're not screwed. We're just going to get nothing but I wouldn't, I mean, the whole thing, I wouldn't bunkle it. Let's do the first one. I'm saying if we're going to do it, we do the first one and then take a look at it and say, oh, that's pretty interesting.
I agree with that.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to, I'm not trying to force this down anybody's throats because this is really kind of.
Paul, we agree, Paul. Let's go.
Stop talking.
You didn't agree strong enough. I want real support. I want to hear from Merritt.
I appreciate the acknowledgement of the silence. And that's an effective perception.
Merritt, it was deafening here. The silence was deafening at this.
I know and it was meant to be. Here's my thought, and like she said, looking at the proposal, I'm a little bit like you. It's almost fairly rubber stamp vague type stuff. I know it says to get a view of the board's future and where we're going, and then survey and stuff, and then they're going to develop an email address. Where are they going to get all that, and how are they going to get all the competitive leagues, and all the competitive teams, and all that other stuff. So that's what I'm looking at. It is a contract, but they don't spell out a whole lot.
Well, this won't end up the contract, but Merritt, my point in this is that I can't manage how they do their business. We can. If someone will go to them and sit down and take the week or the 12 hours and go through all those details, I think that's important. But we're not going to do that. We're going
to pay them the $20,000.
Right, they're going to come to us and tell us where they're going to get the email list and how they're going to find out that's what they're going to get paid for.
Now, I think the thing that's bothering Merritt is, let's face it, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but advertising and marketing is the last snake oil left that you can sell to people.
Yes.
You don't have to have results, and you can always put it back on the body that you're doing it for by saying, well, you don't want to do this and you don't want to do that. Well, that's why you're not going to get anywhere from here.
Agreed.
Right?
But Mark, do you really think they'll come back with proposals in this and get it past this board if it's not substantial? No no way. I mean, there's too many people on this board that know too much about this whole subject for them to come with a bunch of blather at the end saying, here's where you go from here.
Well, that's why I'm with Merritt, because all we've seen is this proposal, and it is the vaguest proposal I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right, Mark? Yeah.
Okay, so I go back to them and say, spell out all of the detail of all of this before we go with that. Is that what you would
say? No, what I'm saying is I think enough of us will agree that we've got to do something. These guys are here, but we need to hold them accountable and say, this is really nice. I understand.
No doubt about it. But Mark, do you really think they'd come back with something thin and a bunch of bullshit and it could get past this?
Oh, there's no doubt.
But it would never get past us. We'd say, hey, thanks, fellas. That was great. And there's a load of bullshit. Goodbye.
Well,
they're looking for more than the $20,000. They're looking to do something. They're looking to have a success. I don't know what it's going to be. I want to see it. I'll be interested in seeing what they come up with if we want them to do that. I'm saying we do the first part of this and then take a look at it. If they can get it past us at that point and everybody says, wow, it's pretty interesting, but it's not practical or whatever, you won't get it past this board. You won't bullshit past this board. That doesn't even worry me.
I hope they are successful, and I hope they come up with some things that we did there.
That's the assumption is their business model is that this is what they do. I don't know if they do it successfully or not.
Hey, Paul, I'll commend Paul. I'll commend you. You're trying to get it by this board.
Merritt, if we don't do something, this will never happen. If we don't, we tried Renee. That didn't work. Renee did not work. It worked okay, but we couldn't do it. If we don't keep trying and failing, or attempting to do it, we won't know what to do. The college showcase worked. The other thing didn't work. We've been talking about rebranding for 2 years. Here is a company that actually does it, that's saying it's going to be 20 grand. That's not overwhelming to us if it's really going to be what it is. Now we're saying, well, if it isn't, we don't know that. We could have 50 companies give us the same proposal, and we wouldn't know if any of them can come up with a solution because there might not be a solution. We don't even know what the solution looks like, frankly, right?
Well, how
Okay,
about
well,
teams?
I mean,
If I listen, we want better teams. We want more teams. I don't know. We want better teams or more teams.
George, that's a little bit about Mark's thing is a little bit what he mentioned is the survey part of it. You know, they said we'll get enough survey that we can have a statistical analysis. So what, you know, we don't have a number there. We don't know what it is. And that really,
Well,
they can't predict elections because the real people don't answer the real questions. And that's, you know, so usually you get some kind of bogus information, and that's the other part.
Well, we're assuming again that's going to happen, Merit. I don't know. We can't mitigate against that. We just then the only answer to that is not to do it.
No, do we all agree that the information from outside our league is much more valuable, or more valuable than the information inside our league?
I wouldn't say that. If I were going to debate that, I would not say that's absolutely true at all.
No, I don't think so, because I think that
I know what the outside will be, Mark.
Yeah, but that's who we're trying to find out. I mean, you know, ever since I've been here, what I've heard is that we are the second league. You know, we groom you and then you move on and you go to bigger and better. So are we willing to change our mindsets as a board of directors to say, no, we're going to do what it has to take to get to the next level?
Or maybe the next level is not an attainable goal. And
here we go again.
You know what I mean? In other words, you're not going to be the EPL, and you're not going to. So if that's your metric, it may not be attainable. It's a good metric to have, and it's a good to reach for the stars is good. But from a management standpoint, that isn't a plan. In other words, the metric is right. How many teams have you been playing in your league? Right? If you got a viable league and you got 600 teams. I would think that would be a very powerful metric. Out of that, you'll get the competition you want. If you specifically, Mark, we're only talking about a handful of teams that are really EPL. You know, if you look at it, let's look every age group. Let's say you got the 40 best players in this entire area, right?
Uh-huh.
You're well beyond any kid that will ever play past high school at 40. Well beyond it.
Right.
Okay, so now we have kids on these the best 40 players, the best. That's only 3 teams in every age group. That's 3 teams. So if you don't have 3 teams and you got every other one, to me, I want every other one. If I don't get those 3, I don't care because I'm never going to get them.
But then again, now we're thinking back to.
I want every other team. I want every other kid that plays the game to play under our, because I know we're going to give them something they won't get elsewhere. I'll let the 45 go to get the rest of them. So that gives me 600 teams.
Well, I would like to find a way to save those kids that were in that tournament. I mean, the college showcase, because I saw some kids that played some pretty good soccer.
Yes.
And how do we keep them would be one of my things. You know, do we have to make a different division? Do we have to do something else? You know, that's, if we're going to like look for angles like that, rather than we're ugly, too bad, let's stay ugly because no one's going to date us anymore.
But when you're at that end, the issue would be, Mark, and this is hopefully where these guys can see, when you're at that end, how many teams are better than your best, than your 15 team at Braden River? How many teams in the area are better? 5?
I don't know. I don't really know.
Well, what do you think?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, on any given Sunday type thing.
Okay, so that's 5 teams, right? In an entire area. Are you willing to say those 5 teams? Forget them; they're gone. Now your team wants to chase those teams, right? Which makes sense. But you're not offering that to them, and you can't. The format you have, you'd have to bring those 5 teams back to give your team what it needs. That's the issue. I mean, so when you're going for numbers, it's the 80-20 rule. If we got 600 teams, your team, the best team, may not be satisfied, but most of your teams will be playing very elegant soccer. You're not going to get them all. Those top teams, those top 45 kids, don't matter. They're not going anywhere anyway. They just think they are.
Well, then why are we trying to get them?
I don't know that we are. That's what I'm saying. We're trying to run a league. We're trying to run the best league. Why would they be interested in coming back to the league is the question.
Hey, let me just out of thinking here is kind of kill a couple of birds with one stone. It's like I'm hearing some of our proposals and all tonight is if you're having with the upper, we changed the structure a little bit. We have promotion and relegation, but we make the upper age groups minimal games, and we'll go back to the Champions League type. We change our league structure. We will only play seniors, October through November, and then those winners will go and play in the Champions League in the January. The first, they play 4 games. So we mandate and all the games, we minimize the games. They're done by high school season starting all over the state. And then we elevate those guys to playing and set up this league by next year and get that all formed up. But and so you kind of kill 2 birds with one stone about getting the playing time in, an incentive to do it, taking care of the top teams, and then they move in and play in a little Champions League across a I-4 corridor.
Well, let me ask you this:
throw out there.
Do we feel that? What is it? HCP is that let's just say, is that an angle they'll take and say this is what you need to get these guys to come back?
Well, what I would say, Mark, is that when these guys come to you, that's what you've got to give them.
Right.
In other words, if they don't come to the board to say, what's going on? What do you think? What do you guys think? You're running the league. What's the problem? What do you perceive the problems? If they don't come to all of us and we unload all of this on them, that's, to me, where you start, right? If they don't, then
well, that's part of their process.
I would think that's elemental to it, right? Yeah. So they'll come to you, Mark, and they'll say, here's the issues. And they'll say, well, listen, you can get those couple teams, but you're going to lose 50 other teams because they're not going to fit in this now. Oh, okay. Tell me how that works.
Hey, Mark.
Yep.
Your club, how many leagues does your club participate in?
Well, once they get promoted out of USA, I'm kidding.
But that does happen.
We're in CDL.
It's not a problem.
No, I know, but I mean that's the mindset at Braden River. I mean, I'm not, I'm just trying to. And
well, it's not yours. It's not yours alone. There's other clubs that do it as well. But
right.
How many do you play in? 3 leagues altogether?
No, we're playing in Florida Premier League. We're in that developmental academy with IMG.
Right.
We have some teams in CDL through IMG.
Right.
We are in, I think one of our girls' teams is traveling all around.
Okay.
And I know one of our younger teams, I don't know what they're in. They might be in I don't know what they're in. Derek Brown, he travels from Atlanta to, Alabama and Georgia and all that.
All right. So.
Probably 5 leagues.
Okay. My question is, if we your club is doing all it can right now to promote all 5 of those leagues. Okay?
Right.
What possibly can we do that's going to turn your head and say, well, no, we're already doing too much stuff with 5 leagues. You know, why are we going to pull them back and come into the USA?
What are they going to do? I mean, unfortunately, and we've supported it even at meetings, the mindset is that we are a lower level league and the goal is to promote out of there. So that's the problem that we've probably got to try and fix.
Yeah, and I think that's that part of us as a league is to tell them that that's not their perception is not necessarily true if we can support it with what our teams are doing and what our players are doing in the league.
But that's agreeable, but it's going to be very difficult to change those.
Well, over 500 teams, of course, it's not realistic.
Because I mean,
we're setting a schedule for 500 teams.
Well, bear in mind,
think about that for a minute.
The Florida Premier League is not for 500 teams in a club. You know, you get 1 or 2 teams in that or whatever it is.
But I'm saying, but overall, Mark, as a league, you've got 500 teams. We had 3,500 games. So you got to figure all of those aren't kids who think they're going to play after.
No, we know that. But let me ask you this. If they came back to us as a board and said, you've got to create a top tier within your league, like, would we do it? Or would we say, no, we're second place?
No, we do. I mean, we have a top tier. In fact, that's what we talk about allowing teams that are good to come back into. We have a first division.
But unfortunately, it's the first division in USA.
Yes.
And again, I'm trying to say
soon we're going to be the smack dab Barracuda League, and man, will they come to that?
Well, see, that's what I mean, though. If they come back to us and say, you need to do a Champions League, like Merritt was talking about, you need to do something like this. Are we going to do it? Or are we going to go, no, we're not going to do that because we're content being who we are?
No. I'm sure that
if it made sense, we'd do it. I suppose it's up to the board, not up to me.
Okay. I mean, because if we're going to spend money, we have to be open to ideas, correct?
Yes, I agree.
Well, I think the entire objective is for us to raise our profile in the soccer.
Yes.
Correct. And we do want better team. We want the best team. We want all of them. Our goal.
Let me give you an example. So in the under-17 boys, TBU has their top team, which I think is playing in the NPL or ECNL. And every other team is either playing in NPL or CDL. And I've seen them all play, and I've played against them. And they cannot compete with us, with my under-17 team, right? They cannot do it. But the perception is that those kids are happy to be in the second and third team because in their mind they're playing in some league that is supposed to be better than ours.
That's absolutely true.
And who's telling them that?
Yeah, and we have to change that. I mean, we
know who's telling them. It's the directors and everybody else at the club.
Right. So we get HCP and say, well, how does that work? Is there a way we can interdict that flow of information in some way to affect it positively?
Or can we validate that that's what they're saying? I mean, I'd be happy with that.
We don't need to validate it. We know what they're saying.
I've seen it in my own club.
Look, Kai has given us, I think on more than one occasion, or not as Kai, somebody we got, the talking points from one of these clubs right down to the coach. The coach has the 7 or 8 talking points given to him, and that's what he is going to say. So we know pretty consistently that's what every kid in that club is going to hear from those coaches. How to keep them busy in the off season. Tell them there's a lot of good stuff coming. Tell them that what's his name is going to show up. Messi is going to show up next Tuesday and adopt 6 of them. It doesn't matter what you tell them. Just tell them some bullshit to keep them there, and that is that is a talking point, and that is so we know what they're doing. That's smart business, right? That's smart business. There's a uniform. They're getting the same information from everybody. If they go talk to someone on the sidelines who's not on their team, is on their team down, they're getting the same information to each other because it's all the same. We don't have that kind of control over our members.
An advantage that we have over a lot of leagues is you're not going to be spending every night in a hotel when you're playing.
Yes.
And that is a positive in many, many ways, especially for parents. So is that the way we market? Is that something we can find out that is
right? But that's the type of thing. Is that powerful enough to force that? And what we're looking for
as a coach, yes,
is we want every team in C to play in USA. Is that a powerful enough incentive? I don't think so, because some people want to travel. They want to tell their next door neighbor they're going to East.
Yeah, because Paulie, that's what they're hearing. They're not hearing anything from us.
That's correct, Mike, and that's what. So these guys, can they form a counterpoint from a PR standpoint? So say, here's your strategy, guys. Here's what your league does. Yeah. Here's what you do.
Well, I feel that. Yeah, that's what we're asking them to do.
Right.
Okay, so I mean,
that's what
it sounds like we're trying to get to the same place.
Yes. When we're hoping they're going to help define how to do it from a PR standpoint. That's really what we're asking, right? So we go ahead with the 20 or no?
Well, I think we got. I still think that we've got to talk to them about exactly.
Okay.
What the 20,000 covers, because it may not be.
Well, how about we get like 3 of us to get together?
Who's going to do that?
Approach it and handle it.
Let's get a committee or something.
Yep.
And handle and go back to Sean and give him this so we can get on our way or not get on our way.
I propose Kai and Mark do it.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Well,
Kai, you and Mark.
Hey, good. Hey,
give me 2 more.
You haven't paid your emails, Mike.
Could Greg put together a conference call like this with
Well, let's see.
And then have them make them presentation.
He was on our. So he was at our committee meeting three things ago. He was here on this thing.
Okay, well now we've bannered it around. We got some other questions. We got some thought process.
Yeah. So you're going to do that, Mark. You're going to set up that meet. You're going to set that up. And
I'd like to see 2 other people with me so we can set it up.
Okay. Because I got it this far. I can only get it this far. I can't go any further. Me. That's what I'm saying. So I got to give it to someone. We got it at least this far. We got a proposal. We got a person. So now, if we want to go further, we've got to identify who's going to take us, who on the board's going to take us further, and get that defined.
Well, I'll help Mark out since me and him are so the skeptical ones.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so I'll get you. We got the HCP. We got the thing. We'll get to Sean, right? I'll get you his phone number, and then you guys can contact him, and then get that.
And I'd like Mike to be in on it too, because we're the 3. We're the kind of the 3 stone walls. I know that.
Well,
I want to see something done, though. I really do, and I think there's.
Yeah, but Mark, if this one dies, then we're going to have to find another. See if you can make this one work. If not, we're not going to. I mean, let's face it, we're not going to do anything soon. Because you're going to have to find another company that does this. They're going to give you a proposal.
And we don't have. I mean, look, we don't have a huge window because we'd like to have this all up and done by the start of the season, right?
Yeah. Well, if we can.
Well, you want it done by June, right? That was our timeline.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I mean, if we go it this week, that's fine.
Greg, have you, Mike? You've got Sean's number, right? And you've got the proposal, so you guys will set up a kind of and Greg, you can set that up for him, right? Maybe some way to do that.
And shoot us an email. We can do it some evening, whenever.
Perfect.
Hey, so I'm going to Rome in a week. And I'll be gone. And
you got to go to Rome. You got to do this. But Mark, I not to be facetious, but this is exactly why it's difficult to get things like this done. Renee, we couldn't find the place for her. We looked and looked and looked. We couldn't.
No, I was just pointing out that let's do something this week.
Yeah, this week.
Let's get it back in their hands this week.
Yes, bang it back to them. Say, here's what we'd like to see, and we want to go for the first. don't go any further. We want to go through the first one and get it back and see it, and then go from there, one step at a time.
I mean, I don't know the guy, Sean. I know Mike does. If you feel more comfortable talking to him, or if you want me to talk to him, I'll.
But I mean, it's
No,
he's a business guy,
Mark,
just like you are.
I prefer that you do it so because he's at my club. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would like you to be the front of it.
Okay. All right. So then I will. If I get that number, I will call him tomorrow.
And these guys, if you want to check them out, I mean, they have some fairly stout credentials as far as who they work with. So we got to figure, they're for real.
Well, remember, this is what my wife does. Her company does this for
Really?
lawyers. So I've seen it go south, and then there's no one held accountable. And that's the only reason why I want it to work. And after talking to him.
That's why you don't want to invest a lot of money in it, like the 60 grand that we could go for.
Right. Right. So I'll call him tomorrow, and I will be very positive. I won't be.
No. Any way you want to handle it, though. I mean, he's got to be tough enough. Look, they do this for a living, Mark. They got all kinds of guys combing the hair on their ass the wrong way.
Right. Well, I think I've looked at this enough times where I know I'm fairly comfortable with what we've all said tonight.
I just need to get it.
There.
I need to get it to someone else so we can keep moving.
Right.
All right. Game 655.
Oh God.
Oh, is that where we're at now?
Is there something in any of these games we got to look at, Greg?
I don't think there's anything.
Are there any protests filed? Because if there isn't, why are we looking at them?
There's not.
Good. There you go.
So during this week, whatever it is with these, we'll figure it out. I'll email you guys. We'll figure the rest of these out and adjudicate them. If there's something really tough in them, if someone died or if someone's getting killed, because I can't go on. I'm done.
So I will get the number tomorrow from somebody, right?
I'm too tired to go. I can't do it anymore.
Someone's gonna send.
Hey, we went over a lot of stuff tonight. I mean, we got into a lot of shit tonight. That's good.
Mark, Paul, I'll mark our calendar. We wore you out for a change.
Okay. Are we done?
Done.
Please. I'm adjourning.
I propose adjourn.
Let's get this thing with HCP done, and we'll go from there.
I will make the phone call tomorrow.
We'll get somebody else, but at least we got an outline, so we're started.
Right.
We've been talking about doing.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Hey, Sherry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, stick around.
Hey, hi.
Yep.
Thank you for that. That's great information on the Commissioner's Cup.
Yeah, I did one. I'm working on the President's Cup now.
It's a terrific recap.
I'm doing one on the President's Cup now, but.
Well, that's great, man. We should use this some way, but we'll just hold it for the moment. All right, thanks.
All right, yep.
All right. Well.
Hey, I just wanted to apologize. I logged in a little bit late. I was finished up my club's board of directors meeting. Was there anything that I missed or anything you guys needed my vote on or anything like that?
No, but get ready to swim, and we're going to be starting. You're going to try and work on a couple ideas and at least bump them up to us for the AGM.
Yep.
At least to start. If we don't get it this time, but it's a start on trying to come up with some other ideas.
Okay, and the only thing I saw on the agenda,
read all the stuff that Greg put out to see what you think about that to vote on for the AGM.
Okay, and the only thing I saw on the agenda that I didn't hear us discuss that I had some interest in the discussion was the open positions. There were 2 or 3 open positions listed on there.
Yes, and you're open on there are 3, I think.
Right.
All of the at-large are open every year. It's a yearly thing. And what I asked Joe is that everybody that's on, if you can, please re-up. Because right now, I mean, we're working a lot of things. We're getting somewhere. If we miss 5 people on the board, it really screws us up. To the extent we can keep everybody now that we're in a groove. I'm just if it's possible to stay on, please.
Sure. I can say on my question more centered around, I know when I came on last year, there was some mention of Steve moving up and you all wanting me to take on more responsibility.
Well, that's something we can do after the election. Now, Steve, you're right. Steve has, I was thinking about Steve taking over my thing, but I don't think that's going to work. I don't know it's up to him, what he wants to do. You've always kind of been, kept your shoulder to the grindstone with him. If he wants to switch it back, he'll tell us, I think.
Okay. I just saw that the VP of Girls was available.
He's up. He's got to tell. He's not here tonight, but that's a priority for me, is to get a hold of him and say, how do you feel about what you're doing? We got a guy trained that can do it. That's ready to, it's good at it. And you ran it actually, at least 2 of them last year that I was there for.
Right. I guess all I'm saying is, if you want me to take on more responsibility in that VP of Girls role,
that'd be the role. That'd be what you do.
Let me know, because that affects how much responsibility I'm going to take on at my club if I'm taking on more responsibility.
Maybe you and Steve, one idea would be to swap around and put him at large so he doesn't have a lot of responsibility and stick you in there. I'll ask him this week if he'd like to do that.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
I'm here.
Okay. Now I can't remember what I was going to ask you. That's what happens here. Damn. Wait, I'll think about it here. Let me think real quick.
How am I going to get out? I can't get out, Chad.
Let's see here. We got. All right. Are those games that are on there, those forfeits?
I know 17-19 is one that we.
Yeah, that's the rescheduled one that never came about.
No, the 17-19. I'm sorry, I was distracted. I just listened to my husband say something. Was one that we fined TBU last month.
Right.
Kind of like disputing it, and she feels that they shouldn't have to pay the full fine, that it was FC Tampo's fault. Again, I probably just need to tell her she needs to file a protest, but I didn't know if you could protest a decision that was already made. You know what I mean?
That was the 100 for each club.
I don't know if it was that one. No, I think it was more than that. Hold on. Let me see. I can tell you. It's probably on last month's minutes. So let me pull them up. Let's see. I'm almost there. Okay. 17, 18. Okay, maybe it was a month before. Oh my goodness. Let me look at it this way. Forfeit by TBU. This was actually a game in November, and I want to say that we charged them $250. Let's see. Yeah, I think this was, we charged them
Here we go.
Let's say 1919. She just emailed me last week. The Trish.
Right, Trish McCarron.
Trish. Here we go. You received anything from the team? Okay, based on review of forfeited games. Home team didn't show up. Yeah, we assigned them a forfeit of $350 because they didn't show up the day of the game. And then she's saying that FC Tampa requested TBU to change the date. TBU agreed, and then FCT showed up for the game they requested the change to. So they thought that the date was being changed, so they didn't show up for the game, but then FCT did show up because I probably told them we didn't approve the reschedule. So she says, why should they have to pay the fine?
Well, she would say that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't know what to do with it because, I mean, the decision was already made, so like, how do you go back on that now? And it's from November, and they're not going to pay it. Nobody's going to pay it anyway, let's be real. Just like all these other ones that nobody's paid yet.
Well, personally, and I know the rest, nobody else feels this way. Maybe you do, but the board decided that's what the fee is. That's what the fine is. Pay it. If you don't, then until you pay it, then that team is not, in good standing.
Yeah, I know.
Or, that's the other thing I wanted to get through, but that'll take another 6-day discussion. Is if a team does not pay their fines,
right,
or they abandon a team, or they disband, or whatever the case may be when it comes to those scenarios, do we hold the club accountable? Can we hold the club accountable?
Well, I mean, I think we're supposed to tell them they're not eligible to come back next season, right? But we never do.
That's the team.
The team.
Now, again.
You tell the whole club?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you hold the club responsible for, let's forget about TBU. Let's go to East Pasco, where they dropped 2 teams, and Brooksville,
right,
where they dropped 1 team.
Right.
Okay. Personally, that club is not in good standing. The club isn't.
Right.
Okay. And until they make amends, they're not going to play in the league.
Correct.
We don't need them. We don't need we don't need Brooksville either.
Right.
I mean, that's 3 teams right there. Big deal. Okay. Now, if you want to play hardball with TBU, that's another story. I'm not sure how that would pan out, but I guess the question is, maybe that's another. I'll have to zip another rule change to you to add. Do we hold the club accountable and put it in not in good favor, good in standing, if a team or teams disband and or their teams don't pay fines?
Right.
Is the club liable for that? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe I'll send an email out. I'll send an email out to everybody on the board and see what they think about that.
Because we do have this list of fines that haven't been paid, and I think there's a few more. I just did not have time, but that's what I was going to try to do that this week. Just cross-check the list you prepared with also some of my notes and make sure that we have everybody that's truly didn't pay. And then I think we need to do something with that list. Send it to the club and tell them you have to clear this up before your affiliation will be accepted or something, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. But I guess we have to put it in. I guess we have to put it in our bylaws, though, that the club is responsible for any of the team's shortcomings.
I think it is.
It is?
I think. I'm not 100%, but I think it says something about, like, well, I think it says that, like, they can't play the next week, but I don't know how we have a way of doing that.
Oh wait, well, we do. If the AGM's coming up, we put a rule. We put a rule in that says,
Yeah.
you know.
But I think it does say that. But the problem is sometimes we don't make the decision to fine them until weeks after the game, and now they've already played the other games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying, like maybe to put one that once they are fined, if they don't pay it, they either have to get a late fee or they have to, you know, just to put some teeth into making them pay so you don't have that problem.
I guess, where do I go from here?
But it's very hard to keep up with that.
That's what I'm trying to get to eventually here is these people should know that if there's a forfeit, there is a fine.
Right.
Agreed? If they forfeit or they don't show,
They
whatever.
know.
Okay. If they don't know that there's a fine, ignorance is not an excuse. Okay.
Right.
They need to know that there's a fine. So,
Right.
which means if they don't, and they're supposed to pay the fine before the next scheduled game, or that game is a forfeit.
Right.
That's in the bylaws.
Right.
I'm not sure it says it's a forfeit, but it says that they will not play another game until their fines are taken.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, we've got what, 8 or 9 teams with outstanding fines.
Right.
I'm gonna. Oh, jeez. Let me see something here. Yeah. God, I'm always tired now. Hey, you want to start a pool on how many clubs show up for the AGM?
It won't be that many because none of them are eligible to vote anyway.
I mean, I've got Braden River, FC Tampa, North Lakeland, although they didn't say boo. Winter Haven, PCU, Celtic, and Oldsmar were the only ones that showed up tonight.
Yeah,
Now,
I know.
This is why John Orr from Celtic, you know,
Yeah.
I saw that he was there. I saw his name up on a window, but he never announced himself.
Right.
Okay, he just did whatever, dialed in or whatever, and just sat there, or dialed in and had somebody else dial in for him to know he was there, and that was it. He was gone, long gone. Didn't hear boo from North Lakeland either. You know, I mean, these people have to announce themselves if they want to be, you know.
Yeah.
And if John says boo or says something else to that effect, all you gotta do is tell him, "We never know you're there, John, because you never tell us you're there."
Right.
You know.
That's what I told him.
We have no way of knowing. Okay. We don't. What I'm finding out is when I was reading through the rules, the bylaws for about an hour today, we don't follow the rules very well ourselves.
No, we don't.
You know.
You're right.
You know, I mean, I'm looking at all the things that we should be fining people for, or people not playing, or this or that or whatever, and we don't. You know, we've got Paul wants to readdress 501 with the relegation and promotion deal.
Yeah.
It looks fine to me. It's pretty explicit. It tells you exactly what you can do and what you can't do. Okay, if it's 2 pages, so what? It at least explains down to the nth degree, so there's no questions as to who's promoted and who's relegated. And come the meeting in June and July, that'll all go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to follow it. Paul's not going to follow it. Nobody else is going to follow it.
No.
So I don't know how we're going to. I'm going to put an email out though, and if you can find something, I'll take a look. I'll take a look and see if I can find something somewhere about the club, being responsible for the team's shortcomings.
Okay, I'll look too.
Yeah, and if we can hold the club in bad standing, or whatever the case is, or whatever the terminology is for the team, for the actions of their teams.
Yeah.
So I'll take a look at that if you can too, because if not, I'm going to send an email. What is this? This is Sunday, so by Tuesday. Oh my God! I'll send an email out to the board if we can't find it, and add something on there that makes sure that the club is responsible for the team's shortcoming.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And totally off, well, kind of on topic, but did we ever get the 500 from Wesley Chapel that pulled that one team out? Remember, and they're supposed to pay 500? Because I didn't see that on your list.
no, whatever's on that list is what I've gotten over the past month and a half, 2 months.
I think there's a few others, but I'm gonna cross check. I'm gonna try to do that this week.
I mean, it may have, if it came in on PayPal, I don't have a clue.
Well, we have that report from PayPal, and I can pretty much match those up.
Okay.
So I'm gonna cross check with all the ones we find, with your list, with PayPal, and then I'll probably ask you a couple because I might not know, if you got it in the mail or something.